Council members, will you take your seats, please? Mr. Sergeant at Arms, will you please call our October 18th, 2022 council meeting to order?
Oh, yes, Strong Council of the City of Memphis. Everybody call to order for the transaction business with adjournment. All right.
I would like to recognize our chaplain of the day, Bishop Linwood Dillard of Citadel of Deliverance Church of God in Christ, invited by Councilman Canale and Councilman Carlisle. The prayer will immediately be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Bishop Dillard, please lead us in prayer.
It's God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Grant us, Lord, a vision for the city of Memphis as your love would have it, a city where the weak are protected and none go hungry or poor, a city where the riches of creation are shared and everyone can enjoy them, a city where different races and cultures live in harmony and mutual respect, a city where peace is built with justice and justice is guided by love. Give these your public servants, the entire Memphis City Council, the inspiration and courage to build it. You have given people of all nationalities a common origin, and your will is to gather them as one family in yourself. Fill the hearts of all with the fire of your love and the desire to ensure justice for all sisters and brothers. By sharing the good things you give us, may we secure justice and equality for every person in our great city. I pray for our city council today that you would grant them your wisdom, your will, your insight, grant them clarity, influence their decisions, guide their conversations, and let decisions be made according to your will. We hold them up before you this day. And as we close this prayer, we close it in the fashion that you taught us. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory, both now and forever. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Carlisle, you're recognized. Councilman Carlisle, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bishop Dillard, thank you so much for being here and blessing us with the greatest gift. I'll now read into the record, Mr. Chairman, resolution. The City of Memphis, Tennessee, by the City Council. Greetings. Be it hereby known that Bishop Linwood Dillard, in recognition of a life of exemplary qualities, outstanding service to the city, meritorious involvement in humanitarian affairs, and demonstrated concern for governmental processes, has been appointed Chaplain of the Day of the Memphis City Council, and hereby is entitled to all the honors, rights, privileges, and prerogatives appertaining to the office, and to the display of this certificate, given under seal this 18th day of October 2022 by the Chairman Martavius Jones, and presented by Councilmember Canale and me. And I so move.
Thank you. Has been moved and seconded, and this item has been passed with no objection. There's no objection. Madam Comptroller, will you call the roll, please?
Canali. Carlisle. Here. Coldetch.
Here.
Dockery. Easter Thomas. Ford. Johnson. Logan. Morgan. Robinson. Smiley.
I'm here.
Warren. Chairman Jones.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. Vice Chair Smiley, I think you've read the minutes, sir,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Read the minute. I find them to be in order.
for the October 11th meeting.
October 11th. Yes, sir.
Thank you. It has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley and seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Madam Comptroller, will you please call the roll on the minutes from our meeting on October 11th? Yeah. So, colleagues, please cast your votes on your new screens.
Coming up in
Professional.
Cast your minutes, cast your votes for the minutes. Okay. Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Coldetch, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Welcome to the October 18th, 2022 regular meeting of the Memphis City Council. Comment cards are available for members of the public wishing to be heard on a specific item. Our Sergeant at Arms has agendas available up front. Please be mindful that all cards must be completed in their entirety, including the item number you wish to speak on. Cards that do not include an item number or are left blank will be held until the end of the meeting for the general comment section. All those wishing to speak on an item must turn in their comment card to the Sergeant at Arms before the item is called. As chair, I will only recognize citizens that properly registered to speak by submitting a completed comment card to the Sergeant at Arms. Madam Comptroller, item number 25 has been held. If any member of the public that's here to discuss item number 25, it will not be discussed tonight, but it will be heard at our November 1st meeting, item number 25. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 1?
Item number 1 is a resolution designating October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Coldetch.
Councilman Covett, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Come on up. Daughters get to come up too. Colleagues, as we discussed last meeting and we continue in this October, we're all wearing our pink, and if you don't have any pins, Clay has more for you. But let's read our resolution, item 1. Whereas in 1985, the American Cancer Society was instrumental in starting the event that would become National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, observed in October, now for nearly 4 decades. And whereas apart from skin cancers, breast cancer is the most common form of cancer among women in the United States. The American Cancer Society estimates that nearly 288,000 women will receive a breast cancer diagnosis in 2022. The statistics translate to show that a woman has a 1 in 8 chance of developing breast cancer in her lifetime. And whereas from 1989 through 2020, the rate of breast cancer deaths in the United States has seen an overall decline of 43%. This is attributed to early detection through screening and to the development of more effective treatments. And whereas the American Cancer Society has been instrumental both in raising awareness of breast cancer and the importance of early detection and in funding research to develop improved treatments. As of last year, more than $71 million has been invested into breast cancer research. And Whereas each year the ACS holds the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer fundraising walk, which since 1993 has grown into the nation's largest breast cancer movement, with events taking place in more than 150 communities nationwide. That event was just held in Memphis this past Sunday, October 16th. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Memphis City Council stands in solidarity with those battling breast cancer and those at risk for breast cancer, and then designates the month of October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Memphis, and that all citizens are thus encouraged to understand the importance of breast cancer screening for early detection and to support the American Cancer Society and its goal of ending breast cancer. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
It has been moved and properly second by Covett, seconded by Councilman Ford. Madam Comptroller, can we please vote on this item number 1 by acclamation? Thank you. That item passes.
Thank you, Mr. Colvett. We are with the American Cancer Society chapter here in Memphis. We are very honored and appreciative of this resolution and for honoring and recognizing us in the breast cancer space that we are currently doing across the U.S. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it shocks Doc Warren. He pulls out his genetics books from med school that I was not assembled at some neocon secret facility, but in fact do have a mother. You were? I know it's shocking. She is a 1989 survivor.
Ms. Covett, I just want to say to you, thank you for the time that we've been on the council. You have spearheaded this and made it a point that this council recognizes Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I just want to applaud you for that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You want to come down and get a picture? Come on, come on. I may need some help reading the next one. Mr. Chairman, if we call item 2, we can continue this.
Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 2?
Item number 2 is a resolution honoring Shannon McWaters for her efforts to promote breast cancer awareness. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Covett.
One more.
Councilman Covett, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas in 2018, Shannon McWaters, Doc, stay with me real quick, will you?
Doc.
Come on back here. I may need you to help me with this one.
Whereas in 2018, Shannon McWaters learned through genetic testing she had a gene mutation that caused her increased risk of developing breast and ovarian cancer by 80%. And in 2021, she learned she had another mutation that made it even more probable that she would develop breast cancer. And whereas for 2 years, Ms. McWaters worked with doctors at the West Cancer Center to develop a preventative plan. This year, upon the advice of her doctor, she made the gut-wrenching decision to undergo a double mastectomy, hysterectomy, to prevent the development of breast and ovarian cancer. She underwent breast reconstruction and more surgery, a process she candidly admits is not an easy road. And whereas a Memphis area realtor and co-owner of a real estate agency, Shannon McWaters decided, despite the highly personal nature of her medical ordeal, to share her decision on social media as a way to increase awareness of genetic testing options for cancer. And whereas following her decision to share her story, more than a dozen people touched by Shannon McWaters' social media decided to receive genetic testing. And whereas Shannon McWaters has served on multiple committees and boards through the Memphis Area Association of Realtors, for the last 6 years, she's mentored young adults. She also makes promotional videos for causes such as Community Alliance for the Homeless, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Memphis, and youth villages. And whereas along with these altruistic activities, the mother of three is now adding fundraising for breast cancer awareness and research. She will hold a fundraising open house on October 20th, 22nd with the representatives from the American Cancer Society and their Real Men Wear Pink movement, of which we are proud members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Memphis City Council does hereby salute and commend Shannon McWaters for her courage, indomitable spirit, and desire to help others despite her own obstacles, and does wish her the best as she continues to move forward. Given this day, under the Great Seal of the City of Memphis, Frank Colvett, District 2, Martavius Jones, Chairman.
I so move.
Now second.
That item has been moved by Councilman Warren, moved by Councilman Colvett, seconded by Councilman Warren. Madam Comptroller, can we please vote on this item number 2 by acclamation, please? That item passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 3?
Item number 3 is a resolution honoring Ms. Wanda Gray and her contributions to the city of Memphis. This resolution is sponsored by Councilwoman Hickory.
Good afternoon to my council and to everyone that is in the audience. If there is someone here that is here to support Ms. Wanda Gray, will you please stand? Thank you, City of Memphis. All right. With the great help of our councilman, Mr. Canale, I want to say thank you. It is a privilege, it is an honor to know you, to take classes up under you. The fact that Mr. Canale has a great relationship with you as well in this area. Would you like to do the honors and read? Okay, that's fine. Well, how about this? I'll say my part and you read it. I want you all to know that I met Ms. Gray, Ms. Wanda, when I got elected by my council to come in on September the 1st. And where some people didn't know what I was doing, but I was working my way from the bottom up, trying to figure out how the city of Memphis moved, not just in council. So I spent a lot of time in the basement trying to figure out where the comptroller room was and where the mail room was so that I knew who was running the city and how was the city being ran. At the same time, I was told I needed to go to sign language classes because there was some things that I wanted to make sure I bettered with myself so that I could translate in more than one way, not just in English language and other languages, but also to be able to sign for the hearing impaired. Well, in that time, I ended up learning that we do have people that sit in this building who have to deal with hearing impaired issues. However, I was able to go to class one night not knowing that my teacher was going to be Ms. Wanda Gray, not knowing that she had already established a great relationship with Mr. Canale. So I say to you, as Mr. Canale, Councilman Canale comes to read, I want to tell you it is an honor and a privilege to know such a jewel, to know that you go over and beyond for your own personal family, but to extend yourself to our city and to the citizens of the city of Memphis. Mr. Canale.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hickory. Let me say what an honor it is for me to be included in this, to honor Ms. Wanda, who is adored and loved by not only myself, but more so by my wife and 2 children, who consider her an extension of our family. Whereas on occasion, the Memphis City Council has seen fit to honor citizens who have served this community, and Wanda Gray is one such citizen whose contributions to the city of Memphis are certainly worthy of recognition. And whereas Wanda Gray was born in St. Louis, Missouri on January 18th, she was raised in Memphis and graduated from the Central High School in 1987. Upon graduation, Wanda Gray pursued higher education at the illustrious Lemoyne Owen College from 1987 to 1989. And whereas Wanda Gray is the proud mother of one son, Kyler, who is nonverbal and autistic, and she and his father, Kim Gray, have dedicated their lives to providing a caring and nurturing environment where Kyler has always felt secure. And whereas American Sign Language started as a hobby for Wanda Gray, and she is well trained in conveying messages of people that may not share the same language, culture, or mode of communication, Wanda Gray enjoys swimming, reading, tennis, walking, and bowling when she has leisure time. And whereas for 20 years, Wanda Gray was a loyal employee of the United States Postal Service as a letter carrier, and in 2013, she became a dedicated worker for the City of Memphis in library services. In 2019, Wanda Gray became the mail distribution coordinator, and she continues to be steadfast in this eventful position. She is also an instructor for ASL with the City of Memphis Libraries. And Terry, why don't you finish?
Excuse me. I'm here. Whereas Wanda Gray is a devoted member of the St. Paul Baptist Church under the leadership of Dr. Christopher B. Davis, Wanda Gray volunteers as a greeter, and she embraces St. Paul's vision. With faith, all things are possible if you believe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Memphis City Council honors Wanda Gray for the dedicated service and contribution to the city of Memphis with the utmost and most sincere respect. Be it further resolved, though ink and parchment are most inadequate to highlight such devotion to others, with nonetheless spread upon the records of the city of Memphis, these words with sincere admiration and gratitude as we honor Miss Wanda Gray, given by my hand under the great seal of Memphis, City of Memphis on this 18th day of October 2022, Councilman Carlisle and myself. Canali, I'm sorry, Carlisle, I gave, don't do that. Canali, here it is. Go, give him a hug. Sorry, I'm moved to motion, Chair.
I just have a few words, and wow. I just want to say thank you, and sign this as thank you. I humble myself amongst you all, and I do strive every day to give my best, and that's because of my son, who's nonverbal. I think of him. Keep him first, as for always, think good. But God oversees me. He's in charge, okay? Always remember that. And whenever you all see me smiling, it's because I'm always thinking, strive to do your best every day. That's what's going to get you through. And I'll keep smiling and delivering that mail to you all every day. And come to classes. I'll teach you all how to sign. Thank you. All right.
Down there.
For the record, that was moved by Councilwoman Dockery. Who was the second on that? Canali. Okay. Well, Madam Comptroller, thank you for having that item. That item has been approved by acclamation. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 4?
4 is a resolution celebrating the life of Bishop William Young. This resolution is sponsored by the Memphis City Council.
Councilman Smiley, you're recognized.
Chairman Jones, this body honors a lot of individuals. I think since my time in council, I'm pretty sure I do not remember a time in which when a council member tries to sponsor something, council actually has some discourse. The reason there was some discourse between this body is because every single council member wanted to sponsor this particular resolution. I think that's a testament to the type of leader, the type of community servant Bishop Young was. And with that, although every single council member's name is at the bottom of the resolution, I do want the family to know that this is not just on behalf of the members of the Memphis City Council. This is on behalf of the people of Memphis, because Bishop Young meant that so much to us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Robinson.
Council members, this is very personal to me because this family has been a part of my life for years. I want to just share with you that not only did they serve the community, Bishop served in a hospital where he'd walk in your room and he would touch your life, and it made a difference in my life. And I have to tell you that story another day. But they were part of the community in which I represent, and they were always there, whatever I asked them to do, and I appreciate them. But in saying that they are personal friends, I don't want to say too much because I will probably get very emotional. But I want you to know we could not honor any better person than our own Bishop William Young.
Whereas, on occasion, the Memphis City Council has seen fit to honor citizens who have enriched the community, and as a treasure to his family and friends, Bishop William M. Young is one such citizen whose memory is certainly worthy of honoring. And whereas Bishop William Young, a highly revered community servant, United States Army and Vietnam War veteran, faith leader, and counselor, served as the bishop and senior pastor of the Healing Center Full Gospel Baptist Church and CEO of the Healing Word Counseling Center. In addition to those roles, Bishop Young was a licensed professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, and clinical pastoral therapist in the state of Tennessee, with over 46 years in ministry and over 40 years in counseling. And whereas Bishop Young graduated from Lemoyne College, earned his Master's of Divinity degree in pastoral care and counseling from Memphis Theological Seminary, did doctoral work on his Doctor of Ministry degree at Louisville Presbyterian Seminary, and completed his Doctorate of Ministry degree at Carolina Theological Seminary. Bishop Young was also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Incorporated. Bishop Young was the author of the book, The Morning After, an accumulation of his many years of experience in the area of grief and loss. And whereas Bishop William Young and his wife faithfully co-hosted a Christian talk show on the road to healing on Memphis WLOK 1340 AM on Sunday mornings, the Youngs also co-hosted Memphis on the Air, Night Talk, a nightly public affairs call-in show, and Bishop Young was a weekly guest on Let's Talk About It, a talk show addressing emotional and spiritual issues. Whereas Bishop Young was a pioneer in many aspects of his life, having served as the first African-American staff chaplain at Methodist Health Systems in Memphis from June 1981 to July 1994, and in 2003, he founded the National Suicide and Black Church Conference, a conference hosted by Bishop Young and his wife, Pastor Diane Young, which raises awareness of the increased number of African Americans now making suicide an option. This conference has grown to an attendance of 450 participants over 20 states, and whereas Bishop Young passed away on October 10th, 2022, leaving to cherish his memory his wife, Pastor Diane Young, his children, Paul, Dorcas, David, William Jr., and Maya, his grandchildren, the Healing Center family, extended family, friends, colleagues, and community members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Memphis City Council joins with family, friends, and the entire community in honoring and celebrating the life of Bishop William M. Young for his amazing contributions in community service, faith, leadership, counseling, and beyond, given under the Great Seal of the City of Memphis this 18th day of October, 2022.
And can we have the entire council stand and honor the family? And we so move. We love each other, so bring it in.
3, 1, 2.
We would just like to say thank you. This is hard for this family because our patriarch is gone. But we are determined to get up every day and, excuse my French, but fight like hell for all of us. And we're going to keep his mission alive and well, and we thank the Lord for you all honoring his memory today. Thank you so much. Keep us in your prayers. We need them. But we know he's standing up over the balcony saying, look at that, they talking about me. He was kind of enjoyed himself. So we know he's watching, so we say, good job, job well done. Thank you all so much.
That item has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. Madam Comptroller, will you please vote on this item by acclamation, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 5?
Item number 5 is a resolution approving an honorary street name change of Pendleton Street from Park Avenue to Douglas Avenue for Demetria Dortch and James Wilson Jr. This resolution is sponsored by council members Easter Thomas and Logan.
Councilwoman Easter Thomas and Logan, you're recognized. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Councilwoman Logan and I brought this forth to honor the two individuals. On last week, the day after our last council meeting, October 12th, was the 1-year memorial date for the senseless murder of these two individuals at the Orange Mountain Post Office. And so they had the memorial last week in which this item was skipped from the agenda. I'm sure it was a clerical error, but we just wanted to have it today with same 9 minutes with no objection so that city engineering can go ahead so that they can plan another ceremony to honor these two individuals.
And you so move?
And I so move. I should have moved it on.
Okay.
Yeah, I motioned on here.
Okay, electronically. Councilwoman Logan. Yes, seconded by Logan.
Thank you. Thank you all. Just colleagues, we just appreciate you all supporting this. Anytime that we have citizens who, in the line of service, tragically lose their lives, we want to honor them and make certain that we show our support, and to be there for them in this way is an honor, and it's our service. And so we just thank you all for joining in and being able to do this for the family.
Thank you. Seeing no other colleagues in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item, number 5, for acclamation or vote? Okay, that item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 6?
Item number 6 is a resolution pursuant to Chapter 9.6 of the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code approving a special use permit at the subject property located at 705 and 691 South Parkway East This resolution is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is SUP 22-22.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Committee met, and this item received a favorable motion, and I so move.
Okay, this item has been moved by Councilwoman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Ford. Seeing no council members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call the consent agenda items, including items number 7 and 8?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 7 is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 5670 of the City of Memphis relative to the creation, appointment, and regulation of city council staff positions and classifications. Up for first reading, ordinance number 5836 is sponsored by Councilman Carlisle. Item number 8 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 5367 of Code of Ordinances, City of Memphis, Tennessee, adopted on August 10th, 2010, as amended, known as the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, to authorize a zoning use district reclassification for land located at northwest corner of North 2nd Street and Hickory Avenue by taking the land out of the commercial mixed use and employment use district and including it in the residential urban use district. Up for first reading, this ordinance is sponsored by the Division of Planning and Development. The case number is Z22-07, ordinance number 5837.
Okay, Madam, this
That
item.
concludes my consent agenda item, sir.
Thank you. The consent agenda was moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this screen for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colbert, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call the fiscal consent agenda, including items number 9, 10, 11, 31, 32, and 39?
Thank you, sir. Item number 9 is a resolution seeking acceptance of a donation to the City of Memphis Division of Police Services firearms up to 1,000 gun locks, estimated value of $250 to $350 per box of 100 pieces from the Community Engagement Partnership Program Team, Support Veteran Affairs. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by Police Services. There's a request for same-night minutes. Item number 10 is a resolution to accept grant funds in the amount of $300,000 from Tennessee Highway Safety Office through the Tennessee Department of Safety. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by Police Services. There's a request for same-night minutes. Item number 11 is a resolution to accept grant funds in the amount of $100,000 from Tennessee Highway Office through the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by Police Services. On our add-on, we have item 31, a resolution to amend the council FY23 grant allocations. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by Councilwoman Easter Thomas. There's a request for same-night minutes. Item number 32 is a resolution to amend the council FY23 grant allocations. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by council members Smiley, Jones, Ford, Dockery, Warren, and Logan. There is a request for same-night minutes. Item number 38 is a resolution to amend the council. We will not do 38 tonight.
38 is just a regular add-on.
Thank you very much. Item number 39 is a resolution to amend the council FY23 grant allocations, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Ford and Smiley. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our fiscal consent agenda items.
Okay, thank you. This item has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. If there are no council members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the screens for the vote on this item?
Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call the MLG&W fiscal consent agenda?
Item number 12 is a resolution approving change number 1 to contract number 12266, Wetco Electric Meter Testing Application, Search Inc., to revise the scope and increase the current contract value in the funded amount of $11,660. Item number 13 is a resolution approving change number 9 to contract number 11296, Enterprise GIS Software Selection and Installation with Environmental System Research Institute to renew the current contract in the funded amount of $1,050,000. Item number 14 is a resolution approving change number 14 to contract number 10332, ABB Software Maintenance with Hitachi Energy, formerly ABB Power Training and Development Company Incorporated, to renew the current contract in the funded amount of $701,655. Item number 15 is a resolution approving change number 2 to contract number 12154, surveying services with OLAR Surveying Company LLC, to renew the current contract in the funded amount of $145,446. Item number 16 is a resolution approving change number 4 to contract number 12062, Environmental Abatement Services with General Construction Services Incorporated, to renew the current contract in the estimated funded amount of $2 million. Item number 17 is a resolution approving change number 4 to contract number 12034, Environmental Abatement Services with Northwest Contracting Services Incorporated, to renew the current contract in the funded amount of $4,750,000. Item number 18 is a resolution to award a purchase order to G&W Electric Company, represented by Power Connections, for 3-phase pole mount vacuum reclosers in the amount of $10,472,400. Item number 19 is a resolution awarding a purchase order to AutoNation Ford Memphis for full-size cargo vans in the amount of $300,780.48. Item number 20 is a resolution approving change number 1 to contract number 12177, 5 substation roof replacement with B4 Ply, Inc., to ratify and change the current contract in the funded amount of $452,000 $493. And item number 21 is a resolution awarding a purchase order for Class 8 cab and chassis trucks to Tag Truck Center of Memphis in the amount of $1,060,586.62, and Rush Truck Centers of Tennessee in $161,246. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our MLGW fiscal consent items.
Thank you. That item, the MLG&W fiscal consent, has been moved by Councilwoman Robinson, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item to vote on the MLG&W fiscal consent agenda?
Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Covett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 33?
Item number 33 is a resolution providing clarification of structure of the economic development support of the city related to the One Bill development. District 7, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by the administration, and there is a request for same-night minutes.
Okay. May I have a motion on this item? I'm sorry, Councilman Smiley. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Councilman Ford. Councilman Ford. Okay. Gotcha. Microphone, please.
Committee recommend the approval. I move it.
Been moved by Councilman Ford, seconded by Canale. We have one card to speak on this item. Yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have disclosed direct financial interest in this item, so I'll be recusing myself from the discussion and the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one card on this item, Mr. Joe Kent, and you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Kent, 5111 Flamingo. So the major problem I have with this is we are permanently putting a $10 million loan asset on the balance sheet of the DMC with no mechanism for repayment back into the general fund. So it's another wealth transfer. So that's language you guys can change today. It won't affect the pricing of the bonds or anything like that. It's just getting the money back into the general fund. I don't know why you want to transfer it over to CCRFC. As you know, the DMC is primarily is funding for the filthy, disgusting, and elitist families of Memphis. Next, it was reported that in the Daily Memphian that the loan would be repaid back in full to the CCRFC 14 years from 2022 in 2036, but the resolution language now reads now 30 years. Anyway, that difference would be about $6.4 million value over 30 years to taxpayers. Now, these resolutions as written and as presented to the public are entirely incomplete for a complete financial evaluation. So if I've missed something, I apologize. But they're entirely incomplete with no interest rate or payment schedule. It's completely unsuitable for public consideration as written and presented to the public. The main thing that you can do is just to get the money back into the general fund. Amend it to get it to where it comes back into the general fund and not back to the CCRFC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. Seeing no other council members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle recused. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 34?
Item number 34 is a resolution to transfer $1,500,000 from Pinch District St. Jude Project Classification Sewer to Pinch District St. Jude Project Electrical, District 7, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by the administration. There is a request for same-night minutes.
Councilman Ford. Councilman Ford, will you please, or you're recognized on item number 34.
Okay, thank you. I'm loud. I got loud. Mid recommend approval, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Councilman Ford, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 35?
Item number 35 is a resolution requesting approval to transfer 14.61 acre parcel known as Halley Stadium, parcel ID number 074-090-00102 to Shelby County Board of Education, District 4, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by General Services. There is a request for same-night minutes.
Councilman, Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that item has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilman Warren. Seeing no members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 36?
Item number 36 is a resolution for the Memphis City Council to procure the services of an independent financial auditor. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Chairman Jones and Councilman Smiley. There's a request for same-night minutes.
Vice Chair Smiley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronically.
Okay, that item has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilman Warren. Seeing no members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 37?
Item number 37 is a resolution establishing a public hearing date for finding of conditions for community redevelopment in the Klondike area and consideration of a community redevelopment plan for the Klondike area, an amendment of the workable program of the Community Redevelopment Agency, District 7, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by Community Redevelopment Agency. There's a request for same-night minutes.
Councilman Ford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Committee minute recommend approval, and I so move. Oh, Lord, somebody moved
Okay,
it. Moved before.
Yes, we're not able to make the motion on our screens here. Okay, we are now. Okay, that has been moved by Councilman Ford, seconded by Councilman Warren. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes.
Two of them present.
Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 38?
Item number 38 is a resolution to amend the Council FY23 grant program, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Ford. There's a request for same-night minutes.
Councilman Ford, you're recognized.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thinking, maybe we decided to use for 7 more days. We amended it to that?
To the 31st.
To the 31st?
Yes.
Good enough. And I move.
Okay, has been moved and seconded, well, moved by Councilman Ford, seconded by Councilman Carlisle. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, no. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, no.
That item passes.
That makes me so happy. Like, those two guys.
That's once in a lifetime. That didn't help you, though.
Yeah. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 40? Item 40.
Item number 40 is a resolution to adopt the 2023 legislative agenda of the Memphis City Council, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by the Memphis City Council. There is a request for same-night minutes.
Okay. That item has been moved by Councilman Colvett, seconded by Councilman Canali. So I'm going to place myself, unless there's somebody that wants to speak on this item, I'm going to place myself in the queue. Okay, so colleagues, this is our legislative agenda item. During our committee meeting, we had a chance for the administration to present their legislative agenda for this upcoming year, 2023. And we had been asked to, each council member was asked to submit what would be their items for the legislative agenda. And knowing that we can't have a complete laundry list of those things, I wanted to see if there was some agreement on those items that we can place on our legislative agenda. There's some items that the mayor and the administration has identified that they want to identify with, or they want to have on their legislative agenda. So as a starting point, I would say that as we come up with perhaps 5 items for our legislative agenda, a starting point could be those that are common with the mayor's agenda, and then we prioritize those other 2. So if there is no objection, I would like to start off our legislative agenda with the one-time funding request that the mayor presented. Number 2 being the sexual assault test kits. And then number 3 being the reckless driving and the move over law. So
Civil forfeiture?
yeah, civil forfeiture, yes.
Okay.
So those are the first 3. So what I will do, Councilman Warren is in the queue. If there are other members that want to have their item recognized and discussed, please please place yourself in the queue to have these items discussed amongst the body. So, Councilman Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Wait, I take it back. Before you do that, staff, can I have what that list was? Because we identified, so just everybody can have those discussion items, what those 10 that were submitted by council members, and we can have those. So, Ms. Robinson, you have those. Would you read those, please?
We have 2 columns. The first column is under fiscal, increase in city fines, the TIB assistance, TBI, I'm sorry, infrastructure, blight, mental health, and homeless populations. The second column is under legislative, rental registry, truancy violations, parental accountability, civil forfeiture of vehicles, reckless driving, gun safety legislation, and single article tax rate increase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Robinson. So with that, I would like to recognize Councilman Warren.
I just wanted to speak on the idea that somehow we only need 5. You know, I think there are a number of legislators up there that can do that. I think the mayor has 5. We may have 2 or 3 in addition to that we want to add. I don't think that would be onerous for our people to look at. So I'm a little bit concerned that we've arbitrarily set 5, and I'd like to hear what other people think about that. On this, I think that the rental registry is something that I've heard a lot of us talk about. I think that's an important thing for us to be looking at. One of the things we have with our forfeiture is already one of the mayors, so we have that there. As far as increasing fines, that's going to be a year's process. So I think starting that shouldn't be considered one of our legislative agendas for this year. It's just we've got to get this started because that's going to be building coalitions over a number of years because we have to get that passed through and put on a ballot for people to vote it on the Constitution. So that's a constitutional change that's going to require a long time, but it still should be something we should put on there, even if it's not, quote, one of our legislative agenda items. So as we're looking at this, let's get lists, but let's don't cut prematurely at 5. We might have 6, we might have 7, we might have 4, but just let's go through and determine what we want. And I think everyone knows how I feel about bicycle trails, so we'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Warren. Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. I understand and hear what Doc's saying. It's, again, I think whether it's 5 or 10, ultimately, we're going to get feedback from our lobbyists about what capacity is there. What we can do and what's been done in the past and is ordinary, and I also get it, like there are certain things that may be more important to people, even if the mayor's, Jay, Busey, and that team is going to carry it, that it's important that we tag team that effort with Jigsaw, right? Like I hear that. So we certainly can say we're in support of these 3 things the mayor is doing, but we wish Jay and his team the best. We want to focus on these 3 teams. Or we can tell Jigsaw, we're in support of what the mayor's doing, but we think he needs extra help from Jigsaw. I mean, like, that's really what we're saying. I mean, I don't know a more blunt way to say it. Like, we're directing our lobbyists how to spend the next 7 months on what they're going around as far as it relates to the city of Memphis and the city council about what they're going to be talking to people about, right? I mean, so I don't want to, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, or at least I hope we will not spend a whole bunch of time on some semantics about what that is, but we do have to get it down to something that's communicable both to Jigsaw and to the Shelby County delegation, because Smiley's going next week. But we also need to be, understand, I see gun safety legislation on there, we are going to have to say, and maybe it is getting feedback from our Shelby County delegation, but we have to be very specific about, what does that mean, right? Is it, Councilwoman Robinson, as we talked about, is it defining what securing a firearm is in an automobile and requiring people to register their firearms in the state of Tennessee? And if you don't, there's a civil penalty. We talk about mental health and homeless populations, but we don't have a dollar amount, right? Are we asking for grant amounts? And what's that number? Is it a single year or is it over 5 years? And we don't have to get into all of that today, but that's the road that we're heading down, or else we're just going to be treading water, getting bounced around the legislature. We're going to have to get very specific. I understand the first step is to get this kind of in legislative priority buckets, but we're going to have to start moving it forward. So, Mr. Chairman, all I'm suggesting is if there seems to be a will that people want more specific council-led items, it's certainly reasonable to say to Jigsaw, we are in support of these things that Jay Busey and his team are leading with the administration, but we want you to spend more of your time on maybe these other items. And where's Dabney? Hey, Dabney. If Jay Busey is telling Jigsaw and they're contacting saying, hey, you know what, we really are happy the council's all on board with single article, but we feel really good about it. Jigsaw doesn't have to spend as much time on that this year. So that's just for everybody to think about. What I'll say to that point is things that are important that I would put on there is I agree with everything the chairman said, however we bucket them, but the rental registry, which is going to require some work on my end too, and I'm trying to go have a meeting with some of the powers that be here to get some buy-in. The increased fines is a worthy note. I mean, the idea that $50 and what the CIP climb this year or CPI 8%, right? That's not getting adjusted. It should be attached. And then I'm actually I want to define this later, and because TBI assistance and all that stuff is very important, but there's tons of momentum for that, right? They're going to know that West Tennessee wants all those things. But one of the things we haven't really gone to the state that we've talked about is we've talked about having to raise taxes on our population in order to clean up our city, which is insane when you think about what we receive in grant money on a per capita basis. We receive less than everybody that's sitting out there. The state of Tennessee gives away hundreds of millions of dollars a year in grant money. And over the last 5 years, as the largest city in the state and one of the largest generators and largest taxpayers in the state, we received the single lowest per capita amount, full stop, less than $200 per. That's outrageous. You can't sit up in Nashville and wonder how a city that's got places like FedEx here sends all that money to the state. You don't send any of it back on a per capita basis for us, and then wonder how we've got 40% of our population living in poverty. So those are some of the things that I think we can focus on and be very specific that we want to change the funding formulas for grant awards. It's not right. So I'll get off my soapbox, but that's kind of where I'm at. And again, I'm in support of what the mayor's asks are, but I think those are some of the things that we can carry that I know you all here in your neighborhoods, and I've heard all of you talk about from the dais as well. Because I think when we have to, and I respect Chairman Jones' position, but when his first response is let's raise the property tax, that may have to become an option at some point. But I sure think we should go to the state and say, hey, the idea that we have to raise our property tax because we're not getting our fair share of grant money and sales tax back is wrong. So that's where I'm at, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I sure in support that we need to address those funding formulas and make certain the city of Memphis gets its fair share. But in addition to that, I think we're going to have to find some way to focus in on mental health. That is an issue that's going to be out there from the school system to the domestic settings, to the police department, the fire department. Everybody is finally having to wake up and realize everybody does not think the same way. And their culture and their backgrounds and their experience creates a different setting for different individuals. And we're going to have to invest more in mental health and help the homeless population in order to keep this city going forward. So I'm supporting funding formulas to increase the money coming to the city of Memphis, along with the mental health and homeless population.
Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. Councilman Morgan.
Mr. Chair, there are a lot of different hearts and different passions for different causes, but I think if we start talking about all of them, we run the risk of diluting our voice. And that's the real concern. That's why the mayor tries to stick to 5, what can be accomplished this year, or maybe what do we need to start the ball rolling on. So to the 3 points that we already have with the TBI, the ask for the sports complexes, and then as well as the vehicle seizures, behind those, my next priority would be the rental registry, because I think that's something that's actionable, it's written, it's something that can be voted on this year and achieved, and will have a significant impact here. And there are other things that we can start discussions on, and I don't want to say they're tier 2 items because they're not important, but they might be tier 2 in terms of development of where we are in the ability to get something done on that this year, including, things like raising the levels of fines. That's going to have to be a conversation that we have to have other cities on board with, and we're going to have to lay out a case and really explain it to the state legislature that's not used to governing necessarily on a local level and how that impacts and the difficulties we have with that. So, I just think that's going to be a longer conversation than we even have time for in the next 7 months. So I would be on the side of making our list shorter or even dissecting it into, top 4 or 5 priorities, first things we want to have a conversation about. But this is what we need your vote on right now, this session. And make it difficult for them to say no to us instead of proposing a number of things that it makes it a lot easier to kind of ignore because we drowned our own selves out by just throwing item after item after item. I'm leaving here tonight to go see Speaker Sexton. If I'd tried to talk about every single item that was important to me, we go into the early morning and dawn hours, and I'm not sure he'd remember that conversation at all or any specific thing to walk away with. We've got to be focused in our voice, and that's hopefully in line with the county commission, in line with the mayor's office, and in line with the legislators that we already send up there on our behalf. So I would argue to add the rental registry, but I wouldn't say much or anything more past that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Morgan. Councilwoman Robinson. You're in the queue.
Can I go right before, because he was talking about the rental register?
Okay, but let me recognize Councilwoman Robinson, but you're next. Yeah, Councilwoman Robinson.
You can allow
Okay,
him.
Councilman Ford. Councilman Ford, you recognize.
Okay.
Use the microphone, please.
Yeah. I just got to check.
No, yeah, there you go.
My son, the county passed the rental register ordinance already, okay? It passed 7-5. That's what I just wanted to let everybody know, since we're bringing it up and you were talking about it, but the county side has already passed it. Do we really need to?
Well, along those lines, Ms. Ford, I think that if the county is doing it, the administration is doing it, and then the council is doing it, I think that sends a strong message that that's a strong item of importance to here in Shelby County. Councilwoman Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with all of my fellow council people, so our list is probably long. But in the state of Tennessee, whenever they want to do anything that just fits West Tennessee or just Shelby County, I think we need some legislation that addresses our gun safety legislation. If they don't want it across the state of Tennessee, I don't mind, but this is one that we need to talk about. What can we do to help our citizens, the citizens here, understand what gun safety looks like, what the legislation should be around it, and we need to give that a lot of definition. I think that's the perfect time for us to break away and have that conversation just for our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Dockery and then Councilwoman Logan.
Oh, hello? Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, to piggyback off of Carlisle and Morgan and Ford, as far as the rental registry, I've been doing my homework a little more intensively on it. I think what makes this work for the city, and it helps us as a city, is that even when we look into that, the further off, like Carla said, we go into this and we focus more on it. That money, when those people whom are licensed to be held accountable, that money then generates itself back into city funds, which helps us allocate other monies in other areas. So when we're looking at things that we're trying to move about, and it also helps us to hold people accountable when they're having these properties and having these people where they're renting these properties from them. So to be able to connect those things, not only for us to have legislation move for us to hold people accountable, but also for us to have an income revenue off of the things that they lack of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dockery. Councilwoman Logan and then Carlisle.
Thank you, Chair. We wrote our top 5 or however many we wrote because of the things that we've been talking about since we've been on council. Blight, crime have been the major issues. And so it's kind of challenging to just, put 5 down. Some of these, say blight and the rental registry, are connected. Some of them they tag on to the other. So how do we, or is it possible to include an ask that includes that, maybe group some of these together, but still include them? Because they're all dealing with the top issues that we have in our city. And these are major issues. It's unfortunate that we haven't gone through this process before now, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, but we definitely have to address these issues, even mental health and homelessness. These are all major issues. So if we group some of them together and maybe come out with 5, and then the other ones that are not in a category, if we could, I know I heard Carlisle say earlier, Councilman Carlisle earlier, that we have to begin to massage those relationships to get, with those at the state. Maybe we can move those to beginning to talk to those at the state level for the next legislative process with the ones that we didn't include on this one. But I do think that we could add more than 5 of these, but because some of them can be combined.
Colleagues, if there's no objection, it seems like there's support for the rental registry. So as item number 4, if there's no objection, we'll say that being the rental registry. And to your point, I still think, so part of this is the time frame that we're on, that the Shelby County delegation will be meeting with us, the Shelby County Commission, the administration for the city, and I'm sure the administration for the county next week. So part of it is being prepared so we can have something to present to them. I would anticipate that if there are other things that we view as a priority, can almost be add-ons, but we still want to have something and still have marching orders for this, then this does not preclude our doing so. But I still would say, though, when we look at what we have before us, and there's no particular ask, when I hear the mental health and homeless populations, from now until then, we can work up something to say, well, we want a new facility, or we want a certain amount of funding for this. That's not built into that. And until we do, that's a wish list, not an ask. That's so right. I think what we're saying here, we have a ask to add the rental registry, give us enabling legislation for us to do that. That's a specific ask. It may not necessarily be a fiscal note that we're asking the state to bring back to us here, but there is one when we talk about sports. We know what that ask is. So we need to be specific about it, but then broad enough, or look at it from the standpoint, we can come back and add to it, but we still have a list of priorities. So that's how I see the spirit of this going, looking at the time frame that we have, and then we're going to have other things to come up. We don't want January to slip up, and we haven't identified those things that we feel that the General Assembly should be looking at for Shelby County and for Memphis specifically. Councilman Carlisle.
Yeah, well said, Mr. Chairman. I was going to get back to that, I was just going to give examples. So specifically for like the rental registry, what I intend and we intend is, because I've been working on this now off and on, but so what that is this, we defer to the Tenant Landlord Act. So a few years ago, I can't remember whether it's 3 or 4, but long story short, they amended state law to allow Davidson County to form a rental registry. We are precluded, and so is the county, from creating that without a change in state law. Once that change occurs in state law to allow Shelby to join that, like the ask is, we want to amend state law so that that Tenant Landlord Act says Davidson and Shelby, basically. Then we would, just like with the CPACER program last year, we would create the enacting legislation, and that's the ask, right? So to the chairman's point, we've got to define these, and I'll be quiet because I agree with everything he said, which is, let's just get the ball rolling, and then JB can go in there and do what he does next Tuesday, and then we can start to define these things out, because also Jigsaw is going to have to give feedback. Like, we may say we want $200 million for X, and they're going to say, look, we hear you, and we'll advocate for that, but we think you really may have some traction asking for $5 million this year, $5 million next year. They may say this isn't the year. So anyway, I'll be quiet, but that's specific to the rental registry, and I agree with everything the chairman just said.
Thank you. Colleagues,
I just want to authorize you to do it.
we have 4 on here, but I would contend if there's no objection, I would ask that we add the increase in city fines. This is something that I think that we've addressed every year since I've been on the council, and knowing that this is something that takes a constitutional amendment, which requires the approval in 2 separate General Assemblies, we at least get it on there to start the ball rolling. So we know that it is at least, at this point, perhaps 4 years out before we do anything along these lines. So that can be number 5. And then as we come up with other things that we identify, we have a specific ask to Councilman Warren's point, we can add that to the list here. But for us to have 5 for Vice Chair Smiley to go to the Shelby County delegation and say, this is our ask, if there's no objection, we've identified those, this is our 5, and we still at some point, could be December, could be January, we come up with what additional ask would be on that. Is there any objection to it? Councilman Warren.
You got the fight. I will throw that in at the end of my. Councilman Warren, I will throw that in at the end of my presentation. Perfect.
Okay. So, colleagues, thanks everybody for your input on. Did everybody who would want to speak on this item, have you spoken? Okay. So just to review, what our legislative agenda will be, that can be amended if it's the will of the body, the one-time funding request as it relates to Memphis sports. Number 2 will be the sexual assault test kits. Number 3 will be the reckless driving and the civil forfeiture of vehicles for reckless driving. Number 4 being the rental registry. Number 5 being increase in city fines. And so that was moved by Councilman Covette, seconded by Councilman Canale. Seeing no members in the queue, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Council members, please cast your votes. Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. 22. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Thank you, colleagues. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 22?
Item number 22 is a resolution requesting approval for the transfer of a 25.4 acre parcel to Shelby County Board of Education located on the east side of Ridgeway Road, Hickory Ridge Middle School, District 3, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by General Services.
Vice Chair Smiley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee may recommend approval, and I so move.
Okay, that item has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle abstained. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Excuse me. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 23?
Item number 23 is a resolution requesting approval to transfer a 14.38 acre parcel to the Shelby County Board of Education, located on the south side of East Person Avenue, west side of Cincinnati Avenue, and the east side of Elvis Presley Boulevard, Hamilton High School and Lincoln Park, District 4, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by General Services.
Thank you. Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee may recommend approval, and I so move.
That has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Councilwoman Robinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We need to make a correction on item 22 and 23. Anywhere we have Shelby County Schools, it is Memphis Shelby County School Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So this item has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery, as amended, so the caption and the language should include Memphis Shelby County Schools in both references. Thank you. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle abstained. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 24?
Item number 24 is a resolution to transfer and appropriate additional construction funds in the amount of $419,427 from FY23 Bridge Repair Cover Line, project number PW23400, to Holmes Road, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe Approach Repair Project number PW04122, to repair the bridges at Holmes Road over BNSF Railroad and Weaver Road over the branch of South Cypress Creek, Districts 3 and 6, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by General Services.
Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee may recommend approval, and I have already moved electronically.
Okay, and has been seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Seeing no members in the queue to speak on this item, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 26?
26 is a resolution requesting the Memphis Police Department to enforce the Child Curfew Act of 1995 and work with the City of Memphis administration on a proposal to open one or more curfew centers in the City of Memphis. All council districts, this resolution is sponsored by Councilwoman Logan. It was held from October 11th.
Councilwoman Logan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I want to thank all of you for the support in committee regarding this resolution, and it is a resolution requesting Memphis Police Department to enforce the curfews of the Child Curfew Act of 1995 and work with the City of Memphis administration on a proposal to open one or more curfew centers in the City of Memphis. And I'm going to read into your hearing whereas on here. Whereas in June of 2022, Shelby County opened the Youth and Family Resource Center as newly authorized by the 2018 Public Acts 1052 that amended Tennessee Code Antidote 37-1-115 to include municipal or metropolitan police department or sheriff's department is authorized to create and administer its own juvenile diversion program to address citable juvenile offenses without court involvement with approval by the juvenile court judge. And whereas since the adoption of Memphis City Ordinance Number 4430 in 1996, there have been substantial developments in state law authorizing municipalities to develop alternative penalties for curfew violation that assist youth and families without court involvement and are not intended to be punitive. It is the wish of Memphis City Council that local policies are reflective of these changes. And be it further resolved, now therefore be resolved in response to public safety concerns and the critical need for increased youth intervention, the Memphis City Council requests the Memphis Police Department to strongly enforce minor curfews as established in Child Curfew Act of 1995. Be it further resolved, the Memphis City Council requests the Memphis Police Department to work with the City of Memphis administration on a proposal to open one or more overnight curfew centers in the City of Memphis and to present the proposal during the November 1st Public Safety Committee of the Memphis City Council. And I so move. Colleagues, this is not a fiscal ask. It's only an ask for the Memphis Police Department and administration to come together and propose to us, come up with ways that we can provide this service for our citizens and the youth in our city. A place overnight, which we currently do not have for those that are picked up. Oh, and we have seen an increase. We've been in the crime committee, and we've seen the increase in youth juvenile crime overnight. And so we don't have anywhere at this point other than juvenile court. And so this will give them opportunity to come back with a plan of action and a proposal. You have in your hands now a copy of some centers in other cities that are working successfully, such as Philadelphia and Minneapolis, and there's some other places. So this will give our MPD an opportunity to research those areas and come back with a proposal, because we are at a critical state regarding this issue, and we don't want to just have juvenile court. So this is an opportunity for us to explore other avenues in other areas. And again, I so move.
Will you move it electronically?
I'm sorry.
And seconded by Dockery. We have council persons Robinson, Carlisle, Vice Chair Smiley, and Canale in the queue. Councilwoman Robinson.
I appreciate us asking the police department to do something that we already have on the books. I've gotten a lot of calls from citizens saying that we don't want African-American children to be disproportionately inconvenienced by this, they thought we were doing a new curfew. My concern is that we don't ever look at the data around who are the children who are not where they're supposed to be during that curfew time, and that's because we've just totally ignored it. But we've got to start making some data. We've got to make decisions based on data. I appreciate the resolution. I appreciate that we're moving in the right direction, but we need to know what age groups actually cause the most problem for us, and are we spending those dollars in the right place? And I'm just putting that on your mind. I'm not saying I'm against this. I'm just saying we need data, and we need it really quickly so that we can make sure that we're applying these dollars, especially for resource centers for the right group of young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robinson. Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Smiley. Good to see you in the seat. Yeah, look, I agree with Councilwoman Robinson. I mean, curfew is a problem, and you've got people out, you've got people working, the third shift, and they're not home, and they can't be there for their children, and like that's a problem. And we can't, we've got to create economic development so that they're not out in those shifts, and et cetera. Man, we could spend all day talking about it. Here's the issue: is you say there's not a fiscal note, but there's no way to fund the resource center without a fiscal note. And then what I really kind of have a little bit of like a technical issue more than anything is we're saying enforce the curfew, but come back with a plan. And so like, what do they do in the meantime? Even though we've heard from the police department about what their issues are, and our only option, and I see Chief, and so I actually would like to, Council, hear from them in a minute, but the last time they were here, what I heard is if we come into contact with that individual and we determine they are violating the law, and we are going to enforce that misdemeanor instead of utilizing, the officer's discretion, then they now have taken that individual in custody, and they are responsible for that individual. They do not have a place today to take them. So even between now and November 1st, we don't have a way for our officers other than to babysit that individual or identify a guardian or take them to juvenile detention, which is something I don't think any one of us wants, if they are literally just breaking curfew, right? So we're saying if you are just breaking curfew, we don't have a plan for you, but we want you to enforce this law. So on the flip side, obviously, if they come into contact with somebody that's breaking curfew and has a firearm they're not supposed to, we don't have to worry about the outcome of that situation. So what I'm really, I guess, from the appropriating body, the plan's pretty simple. We just need the number, right? I mean, that's really that's what we're saying. We're saying, what's the number? My other issue there is that we have this entire other $2 billion government across the street that is responsible for funding juvenile programs, more specifically juvenile justice programs. And I know last time we talked about it, and you said you had spoken to some council or some county commissioners, but I'd really rather see this, and I'm not going to get in your way on it, but I'd really rather see this as a joint resolution because they need to be a part of this. I mean, to your point of adding the language, and I'm glad you did, like the Shelby County Sheriff's Department has a role to play too, because ultimately that's who enforces the juvenile justice system. And when we arrest somebody, that's who our police department hands them off to. So we're putting our police department, or we're asking to put them at least for the next 3 weeks and probably longer than that, in harm's way of what they're really telling us. So I guess I'll listen to everybody else, but I don't understand what we're really asking the police department to do between now and getting funding when we already know that there's no real solution. It's almost misleading to the public about the desire of the body is to enforce the curfew, but we don't have a plan. So I think we just need to be very careful about sending some sort of false message out there that the police department is going to start knocking heads at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when we know that they really don't have the time or ability to do that today. And that's the thing. Like, if we're gonna have these resolutions, we really need to put a fiscal note on them. We need to go into the budget ourselves and say, this is where we're going to pull the money from. Here's an extra $3 million for the resource center. We don't want to do that, but it's a priority for the 13 of us. So, hey, we're going to pave less roads this year because we think youth centers are more important. Like, that's our responsibility. Those are kind of my comments. I'd rather have it more meaningful than go enforce a curfew that you can't and bring us a plan in 2 weeks for a problem that's been burgeoning for 20 years. So that's where I'm at, Councilwoman. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Logan, you want to respond?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for your comment. I want to make it very clear that this is already on the books. We can't say that we don't know what to do. It's written what to do. It's written that there's a curfew law that's on the books currently. And, and so it's not asking you for anything new. And the reason for asking is because the police department made it very clear that the reason why they're not enforcing this law or this ordinance, I'm sorry, is because they don't have anywhere to take the children that they pick up. And so our ask was, okay, because this is a part of your purview and ours is to approve the fiscal note, come back with a plan of how you see this working and how much that would be so we can, as a body, say, okay, then we can move on that fiscal note. Or do you want us to come up with, create the curfew center and then, tell them this is how it's going to go and then we pay for it? No, we want to this is up to administration and MPD to come up with how that could work. The county did put in the Youth and Family Resource Center. It's there. That was their responsibility, and they said they did that. It's open. They take youth there, and you can respond to that. They take youth there, but we don't have any plan as a city for picking up youth overnight. The plan was for the Family Resource Center. The county said they pay for it, and it's open. So we have an issue because we're picking up children overnight and not having anywhere to go, or we're not picking them up because of that reason. So the ask is, there are many cities that are doing this, and so the ask was because it was said that there's nowhere to take them. Okay, let's look at that. Go back and look at that with administration and come back and tell us how we can get this done. And give us that fiscal note, and then we vote on it because that's our purview. It's not our purview to tell them how to do it. It's our purview to say, this is how much it costs, and us to vote on that. And I agree with you. We have to pay for that. So, and there are other cities that are doing this very successfully, and it can be a benefit because there are services that are offered to the youth that are part of intervention, that are part of, they have counselors there, they have mentors there, they have other opportunities for the youth. It's not a babysitting service, it's not a detention center, it's an opportunity. There's one in Atlanta, Centers of Hope, and are you familiar with that, Chief Davis? Is it okay if?
The city of Atlanta turned some of their centers, their recreation centers, into what is called Centers of Hope. But those centers are sort of...
Chief Davis, just for the record, can you state your name, title, and
forgive
address?
me.
Yep.
I got caught up in the conversation.
I understand.
Chief Saralyn C.J. Davis, 170 North Main Street. And those centers also provide a number of services, not just to young people, but also to parents as well.
Right.
So, we're in the process now of conducting research. We've reached out to 10 different cities so that we can provide sort of a matrix just to have some comparison of what other cities that are comparable to the city of Memphis, what their solutions have been for this issue. And it certainly is not that the city of Memphis Police Department does not want to enforce. We understand and very concerned about our young people, especially those that are underage, our 10, 11, and 12-year-olds that sometimes find themselves out on the streets, in the wee hours of the morning, and our officers do pick them up. As we said before, the challenge is that if someone at home, some responsible individual at home, for us to be able to return, those kids to, a place of safety. So I think this is a conversation that, we plan to continue to have with the administration so that we can come up with what the solution could be for the city of Memphis. But just know that we are certainly supportive of addressing curfew issues in the city.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Chief Davis, Deputy Chief Crow, a couple questions. I think at the last council meeting, you brought up there were some nice charts on the screen, the monitor. I can't recall the number of juveniles that we've, I guess, had some type of contact with.
Off the top of it was 120.
About 120, right?
That's correct.
And of those 120 juveniles we had contact with, how many of them, I guess, were perpetrators of violent crime or?
So I don't want to give out the wrong information because I don't have that in front of me. But those young people that we encounter, I don't think that number represented those that were involved in some level of violent crime. It's many more than that.
So only 120, the 120 we've encountered were just solely juveniles who were in violation of the curfew law
in
just
curfew
that.
Or some other type of status offense.
Okay. And could you just walk us generally through your current procedure if you encounter a juvenile who's violated the curfew law? Nothing else, just the curfew law.
So did we not have an example of that last week?
We did. Yes,
okay.
we did.
I'm going to let something relatively recent to sort of walk through what our efforts are and what our policy typically outlines for.
Okay.
You can talk about that particular situation.
Good evening, everyone. Don Crow, Memphis Police Department, 170 North Main. And so in a perfect scenario, the officer would spot a juvenile out past curfew hours. He would stop, detain that juvenile, and start an investigation. Is that juvenile up to other activity, or is it only a curfew violation? The juvenile would provide his correct name or her correct name, correct address, mother's name, father's name, phone number. The officer would call the parent or guardian, ask them to come pick up the juvenile, and then issue a juvenile summons for that. The complication comes in when the juvenile is not cooperative and won't provide their correct name, their correct address, or correct contact information for guardians. Then the officer is there with the juvenile and is unable to relinquish that juvenile to a guardian.
So, assuming the juvenile does not cooperate, at that point, the police officer, I guess, cannot relinquish control. So what happens when the police officer cannot relinquish control?
So that's the scenario we've been trying to explain for several weeks now. That officer is now responsible for that juvenile's well-being. And so he cannot just tell the juvenile to go home. He can't just drop the juvenile off at a house. He has to find the legal guardian to turn that juvenile over to.
So walk us through what happened, because there's something has to happen. The juvenile doesn't, sleep in the police car for the duration of his or her life. What happens?
Well, and I'll add to that too. At some point, as they continue to try to identify, a responsible relative, if it's not the parent, another responsible relative to be able to take that juvenile in. Our officers have taken young people back to the precinct even when their shift is just about over, it's our responsibility at that point to hold on to that child. And most of the time, at some point within the next 24 hours, we reconnect that juvenile with a family member, whatever the case might be. But it is extremely time consuming, and it takes, a patrol officer out of service for an extended period of time if they cannot identify someone, because it is our responsibility to make sure that child remains in safe custody.
Okay, and then my last question, I'm going to make some general comments. As it relates to juvenile crime and juvenile offenses, what percentage of those crimes occur, after the curfew, compared to what percentage of crimes occur through, regular hours from, not regular hours, from, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. prior to curfew? Would you say majority of the crimes occur prior to curfew?
I would say after 3 o'clock.
After 3 o'clock? So after 3 o'clock?
That's an educated guess. It's just a hypothesis, just based on what we discuss on a regular daily basis.
Because I think I recall seeing something that showed that, generally speaking, the majority of the crime will occur between 3 and about 9.
3 and 9, and then beyond sometimes,
Okay.
too, especially on the weekends. On the weekends, we see a large number of young people out well after, 9 and 10 o'clock at night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for addressing this body today. I think my general concerns as it relates to, curfew centers, I think, generally speaking, what will happen is we're asking law enforcement to go out into communities where we have large number of youth out in the community to, I don't want to say target, but what will essentially happen, almost every time you have law enforcement, you have laws in a predominantly black community, what happens almost inevitably is a disparate impact on minorities. And what I don't want to do is individuals who are essentially just out too late, being mischievous young people and just, nowhere to go, nothing to do. I don't want to have them impacted or that stain of them being justice impacted, that stain being associated with the criminal justice system so early on just because they are, just out too late. I'm having a hard time with this one, especially we have a lot of things on the books. Recently we amended the eviction set-out ordinance. We don't have enough staff, don't have enough enforcement officers to address that. If we, at some point say, let's go out into the community and make it, top priority or a highest priority, what we're going to do is we're going to have curfew taking precedent over the violent crimes we have in the city of Memphis. And I don't think that needs to be where this body goes. If we're going to target anything, we're going to make something a high priority. It needs to be getting guns off the street. It needs to be cleaning up blight. It needs to be stopping violent crime, not some youth out too late. So right now, I think I'm a no on asking for this, and I think there was some mention of there is no plan. Well, the administration, the Chief Davis, Deputy Chief Crow, it seems like they're working on a plan. I think this council's focus should be on the issues that are top of the mind. Juveniles being out too late is not at the top of the mind. We know what's top of the mind. Gun crime is at the top of the mind. Blight is at the top of the mind. Illegal drag racing is at the top of the mind, not juveniles just being out too late. And we talk about, limited resources all the time that Chairman Jones talks about. We need to be directing our resources to things that are number one issues in the city. And juveniles being out late, I'm just not buying it. If you talk to the people in your communities, some of the same calls that Councilwoman Robinson received, I received. The folks in the city of Memphis are concerned about the things that I just mentioned. I do not believe their number one priority, their number two priority, number three priority, not even their top 5 priority is just juveniles being out late. I just don't know if I can support this. I'm waiting to hear from some other council members.
Would you like to respond, Councilwoman Logan?
Thank you, Chair. This resolution was a part of a number of things to help combat crime in our community, public safety in our community. Everyone here is top of mind with everyone here. It's not targeting young people. It's in response to the reports of increase in juvenile crime, increase in violent juvenile crime. It's giving them an option because right now, only thing we have is to take all of the youth to juvenile court. And so in looking at it holistically, this was an opportunity to create an alternative for those that may not be at that point yet. They may be headed that way. They may be out, with the wrong crowd and headed that way. Here's an option or an opportunity to deter that behavior by saying, hey, come on in And here's, instead of going to juvenile court, we have a center of hope, or we have a community evening resource center, such as the one in Philadelphia, that offers positive engagement, that offers family engagement, conflict resolution, violence prevention, mentoring, and other services. They have, some of them allow for, children to watch movies, have mentors, have counselors at these centers. So it is an opportunity to offer an alternative to the juvenile court system. And in 1995, when we're still having the same problem with increased juveniles out overnight breaking curfew, I didn't write that. This body didn't come up with that. It was by a body before us, because it was a concern. And what this resolution is doing is to say, hey, we are still having a challenge with youth being out overnight, and we're seeing that more and more of those youth that are out overnight, the percentage that we're seeing reported, an increase in violent crimes, carjackings, and those types of things are youth. And if you have an opportunity to offer an alternative that can be reformative, that's what this is about. It's not going collecting. They're not going to do that anyway. We don't have enough police to be collecting them, going out searching for them, but those that they do pick up, having an alternative other than the juvenile court system, one that could be reformative, is what this was, what the intent was. We already have on the books for you to pick them up now. Whether we do that or not is up to this body. It's up to us, up to them to enforce. But having an opportunity to use it as a chance to catch a youth that may be headed that way, and as opposed to them going to juvenile court. So, my ask was, let's allow them, because to come up with an opportunity for us to say, hey, let's look at that. Yeah, this is a good idea. This is what we're talking about collectively together, collaborate on that. And I think they, are in agreement with it as well. So we would be the ones that have to say, yes, we want you to do this. Go back and look at that and come back and let us know, so we can get involved and be a part of offering a solution other than juvenile court, and something that can be healthy for our community. Because if you look at the statistics, African American children and citizens are being affected as well by the violent crimes and by the carjackings or whatever is happening. This is an opportunity to help deter that as well. And with that, I call for the vote.
Well, we have other members in the queue.
Okay.
Councilman Canale, Warren, and Johnson.
be interested in holding this until we have a more concrete plan of what, in fact, we want to do and who's going to be doing it. And
That's fine. We can, well, I'd like to actually hold it to the heel of this meeting, the vote to the heel of this meeting, if you would, to make a couple of changes.
okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Warren, then Johnson and Carlisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chiefs. About how many juveniles do you think are picked up on a given night that have to be babysat or taken back to family members that are just out too late and the officer's worried about them and takes them? How many think we're dealing with a day?
Are we prepared to make that guess? It just hasn't been, we're so focused on, the criminal element
Right.
that we do.
So we don't want to have, just best guess, in Chief Davis, Chief Crow, any idea, like
2 or 3
2 a week?
Maybe.
2 or 3 a week?
Not every day, every night.
Okay. So I guess the thing is, I like the concept of this idea, and I like what they're doing in Philadelphia, but they have one center for a city that's probably 10 times the population we are, and they use it more like a resource center. So I'm with Councilman Canale that if we're going to make this as a resource center and do something, it's got to be done with the sheriff's department and possibly with every city in the county, to where, there's a place where kids that need to be, that we just can't find their parents, need to go to. But I'd say that's probably not something we need to do now. And I understand the idea about trying to do a curfew and making sure people know that it's there. But I have the same concerns Councilman Smiley does, in that we don't want to criminalize people. I have the same concerns Councilwoman Logan does, in that we want to give them some place and some alternatives. So I think we don't necessarily have this correct or have an idea about what we can do yet. It's something we need to keep talking about and working with the other governments about. And I think this probably needs committee work and research, maybe from our staff, to bring us back best practices, and then we can go someplace else, because Liza wants something else to do. You can see that look on her face right now. But so in my mind, I agree with the hold is warranted. I think it's an idea that needs to be explored, but it may be something that looks better on paper than the need we have, and we need to figure out what that need is. It may be as simple as trying to get the Y to open up a center at night we can take people to. It's just like we've been using the travel lodge to take homeless families at night when there's no place for them to go, so we have a drop-off spot. And that may be what we need to arrange, a safe drop-off spot we can just take people to if we think they need to go somewhere and we can't find their family. So I would be in favor of holding this and trying to come up with a alternative spot. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chiefs.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson and Carlisle.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I, too, am in support of the concept, but trying to make it realistic may be difficult for me to comprehend at this point. I think the point that Councilwoman Robinson said about data, we need data about, who are these youth, what days of the week are they being picked up, or you think you see them out there. So someone needs to really just comb the area, for a period of time to actually acquire the data, so you have an idea how many people you are actually be working with. I also wonder that if you take them to one of these centers, what happens when the parents still won't come and pick them up? I mean, if they are out there, they won't give you the correct name, address, they're still going to be left at that center. And we got another situation you have to deal with. I read briefly these articles that you submitted. It does seem as though that they're more like recreational centers, resource centers. So I'm thinking maybe what we may need to do is try to get more of those open on certain nights.
Right.
Be it on Friday or Saturday nights or whenever the problems seem to exist the most. And that's what we really need, a place for them to go rather than hanging out. But at the same time, we're gonna have to figure out if it closes at 12 o'clock, how long you gonna give them to get home? We're gonna have to figure out all those particulars. So at this time, I can't see myself supporting it as it is, but I do think we need to address it, try to come up with ways, and everybody needs to think about it. As I mentioned last time, even the school system may need to change their activity time frame and let them start their football games and basketball games a little bit earlier to get the kids off the streets in time. And everything, the movie theaters, things like that that we know where kids go to, let's talk to all of those individuals, see can they come up with some special timing, so maybe motivate them to go there and then go straight home. But it's going to take a whole city working with them. And I just, with 126 numbers so far, I don't know if that's financially worth us implementing such a program. Then my last question is, once they are summoned, where do they go to? Juvenile court? Is that what, you say you pick them up and you just write them a summons when you see them? And what happens?
Yes, ma'am. They still have to be released to their legal guardian.
Okay, but you write a summons.
Just documents that they were found in violation of the curfew. That's forwarded to juvenile court.
And that's it.
Whatever disposition juvenile court decides, but the release of them is to a legal guardian.
Okay, so maybe nothing.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I will say this, that the number that has been presented is not a full representation of the problem. So it just happens to be, those are the young people that the Memphis Police Department encountered.
And for whatever reason, they thought it was best to remove them from the streets at that time.
And as it's been said, our focus has been violent crime.
Right.
And we use our resources appropriately to address violent crime in the city. Not saying that we're not concerned about our young people. That's why we do have these encounters, because sometimes that 10-year-old raises the concern of an officer that I need to, deal with him. And sometimes we see young people in crowds.
Right.
And all of them look like they're 12 years old. But we don't have the resources to corral crowds of young people. So I think more conversation about this and establishing a plan and working with the council member here in the administration on what a long-term solution could be is in order.
That's the same way I feel. And I think just the mere fact that we are aware of it, we'll be thinking out of the box, and eventually someone will come up with a solution. But, we just have to spend our time when we see them. Hey, please go home. We don't want anything to happen to you. Stay safe, and encourage them. And maybe that's what it would be. Rather than picking them up, if we could get the police officer or somebody to drive by and say, hey, y'all go home, okay? It's dangerous in the streets. Go home. It's just different things we have to do in order to get them off the streets, Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. Councilman Carlisle, and then we'll take it back to you to wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I've heard everybody. This is not ready. I mean, I could amend it and strike language to talk about the enforcement and then just leave on, bring back the date. But I think the absolute simplest thing to do here is I'm going to move to hold this till November 1st. I'd like to hear it in committee with a significant amount of time. And I would really encourage the sponsor of the resolution to get with staff and make this a joint resolution with the county commission. Like, we are not gonna be able to do this, nor should we, all on our own. We donated like $1.5 million center that we have already to the county. It really is, I understand we can make all the poetic arguments of our kids and, a police department this, but like at the end of the day, like, we didn't want to talk about consolidation, but we have very separate and distinct like buckets of responsibility. And the juvenile justice system is run very specifically by the constitutionally elected judge of juvenile court, Turk Sugarman, the DA's office, and the Shelby County Sheriff's Department. And so while this resource center is almost like a processing assessment center, it is going to require their cooperation. And so without that, we're spinning our wheels here. And to be frankly honest, again, we've donated and made the first step. They need to be responsible. So I move to hold this till November 1st and bring this back to committee for further discussion. And I would really like to see it as a joint resolution because we're going to need their checkbook. I'm happy to look at us spending a little bit more money,
but not without them bringing theirs as well. It's kind of where I'm at. So I hope there's a second for that.
Okay, before you do, I have one comment card, and the fact that somebody took out time of their day to come down here and comment on this item, I'd like to hear from them. Mr. Earl Fisher?
Hey, Jim, you're the boss. I said, you're the chair, you're the boss.
Mr. Earl Fisher, you have 2 minutes, sir. And if you please, state your name and address for the record.
Dr. Earl Fisher, 3890 Mill Branch. Let me express my appreciation for the benevolence of the resolution as well. And I would basically echo a lot of the comments that the council members have already shared. I'd offer this for consideration moving forward on how to actually resolve the problem. One of the studies that I'm familiar with would suggest that the majority of juvenile crimes happen between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. So, of course, this particular resolution would not resolve the majority of these issues, as was stated by some of the council earlier. Councilwoman Logan references the 1995 nature of the originality of this particular ordinance, and I would say yes, and most studies would suggest that that's during the time that we now know as stop and frisk and racial profiling. And my primary concern, as was stated by some of the council members earlier, is that this would also open the door for more of that racial profiling and stop and frisk tactics, which would result in disproportionate and unnecessary contact and technically the violation of some civil liberties. And as Councilman Carlisle stated, I mean, the fiscal note of this, as you talk about our police officers already being overstaffed or understaffed, overworked, and underpaid, is an issue that I don't think this would ultimately resolve. So I would hope that moving forward, whatever resolutions are proposed or whatever, I think the center itself, the idea of the center itself is definitely something helpful, but needs a little bit more thoughtful consideration. Let me lastly say, everybody has literally witnessed a Black Baptist preacher make 3 points in less than 2 minutes. Let the record reflect that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reverend Fisher. Colleagues, the comments I'd just like to make on this item are such that I realize how thinly spread our resources are. But I want to, commend you, Councilwoman Logan, for doing something. A lot of times, if we don't have an idea on the table to address this issue, it may be over here in right field, but perhaps the fact that it existed over there, we can come to center field and have some agreement about that, and it would not have taken place had you not brought this. But those are my comments. I don't have to prolong it any longer. Councilwoman Logan, you can close it out.
Thank you so much, Chair, and I appreciate everybody's comments and input, and definitely needed more input into the concept, which is why we asked for them to come back. But I hear my colleagues, I hear the community in that they would rather more conversation and more research be done prior to. And so I have no problem with that because my point is to offer a solution for the problem that we have. So I am in favor as well of holding it and coming back to committee. That'll give time to talk with, Chief Davis and to really drill down into the areas that we've talked about today, because the point is to offer a solution so that our young people will be safe and they will have another opportunity. So with that, I do move that we hold it.
Okay, so I would just say we hold it, and with the fact that you can bring it back at any time, we don't necessarily have to set a time frame of November 1st or the 15th.
Okay.
Well, but does it really have to be a table for us for you to request it, put it back on the agenda?
You have to, with the hold, you have to set up specific.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
So just tell her
So
to table.
do you want to table it?
That's fine.
Okay.
No, I definitely don't want to do that. I don't want to withdraw
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to table it.
Okay.
Okay, if
Yes,
there's
I
no
move to table
objection to the table, it can be taken off the table at any time. Once we've had, data, could be, we can look at the budgetary note. And one thing that, to keep in mind with this, we could be, this year's flying by. Next thing we know, the administration is going to be talking about budget. So I'll be hopeful that Chief Davis would sort of hear this, and if there's the will of the body to look at what the fiscal note will be, it can be part of our budgetary discussions. So if there's no objection, this item will be tabled.
Absolutely.
Okay, without objection. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 27?
27 is a resolution to request the mayor of the city of Memphis to conduct a national search to fill the vacancy for president and CEO of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Chairman Jones.
Thank you. Councilwoman Issa Thomas.
Chair, the committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Okay. Has been moved by Councilwoman Issa Thomas, seconded by Vice Chair Smiley. Vice Chair Smiley is in the queue to speak on this item.
I would like to offer what I believe to be a friendly amendment. I think the will of this body is to have someone in place to lead MLGW. Lean closer to the mic. All right. Just because you asked me, Councilman. All right. I would like to offer a friendly amendment. I think it'd be prudent for us to have someone in place leading MLGW as it undergoes some change in the near future, but also giving deference to Council Chair Jones's reasonable request for a national search. So I would like to amend. Hopefully, it's a friendly amendment to have the resolution reads something like this: request that the mayor of the city of Memphis conduct a national search to fill the vacancy for president and CEO of Memphis Light, Gas, and Waters, and in the meantime or interim, that Doug McGowan serve as interim president of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And with that, I move. Well, is it a friendly amendment?
Is there any, Mr. Ware, I think council wanted to hear from you on it. Before that, Councilman Covert. Okay.
I don't want to step on the vice chairman because I think you might want to elaborate a little further, but I guess my question is can we do that? If the mayor has brought forward.
I can speak to that. So I'm going to answer your question before you even ask Attorney Wade. Sometimes I wear attorney hat. That's my real job. This body can request anything. We can request that we move City Hall with 7 votes. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. But what I will say is this body can request anything. So yes, we have the authority or ability to request anything. Doesn't mean the mayor is going to take action. We can tell the mayor to do something. Doesn't mean the mayor is going to do it. So we can request that the mayor conducts a national search. Doesn't mean the mayor is going to do a national search. We can request that the mayor appoints Alan Wade as the dictator of the city of Memphis. Doesn't mean Alan Wade will become the dictator of the city of Memphis. So this body can request anything. Am I right? I like to know I'm right. Thank you.
I mean, right now, the charter says that the board chair is the interim until someone is appointed. They've appointed an operating person interim. I mean, I think if this body wants to do that and the mayor concurs, I don't see any reason why, because it would be a temporary position. You do run the risk, however, that sometimes temporary becomes permanent. If national search takes 5 years to complete.
Councilman Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I would ask that question. What's the difference between an interim and a permanent appointment?
Councilman.
Thank you. So,
Vice Chair Carlisle. I'm sorry.
Vice Chair Carlisle. We starting to look alike.
Smiley.
Here's my thoughts on it. If you recall, I think it was then, I don't know his position, then Mike Rollins. This body requested that Mike Rollins become the police chief. I think the mayor's position at that point in time was, in order for him to look the citizens of Memphis in the eye to say that we have the best possible candidate is the only way we could do that, according to the mayor at the time, was conduct a national search. My position is this. We have someone in place, potentially create culture change, hopefully right the ship with some of the concerns as it relates to customer service that we hear every single day from the citizens of Memphis. But while someone's in the place who has the skill set to right a ship, has the skill set to run an entity like MLGW, we still simultaneously conduct the national search. And if Doug McGowan shows what I believe to be his capabilities of leading MLGW, we do the same thing we did, and I think, this body decided to do, that the mayor decided to do with Chief Mike Rollins, which was suspend the national search and make Mike Rollins lead. And I think with this resolution, we have someone in place that this body would hopefully vote for, but we also pay respect to Councilman Jones and every single other individual who was required to go through a national search, like Chief Davis, like JT Young, like Mike Rollins. I think this is, in my belief, we get the best interim, and we also do our due diligence, like this body should be doing when it comes to positions like this. We're talking about MLGW here. We're talking about $1 billion entity.
Correct. And
we have to have due diligence.
Get back to the question that I asked.
I'll get back to the question.
And the purpose behind it was really, we've got a mayor, and let's be real, we've got a mayor that has signaled his intent to nominate Doug McGowan for the position. If and as our council just warned us, interim versus full-time appointment, I don't know what the legal difference is, and if there's ever any requirement to ever come back to us at all and to say this is the full appointment. I mean, somebody can remain the interim forever. There's no defined time limit to that. And so if he is good enough to be interim, I think there's also faith and confidence for him to be there full-time in the position, to be honest. And a national search is not an unreasonable request, and we've gone through that process multiple times for several positions here at the city of Memphis. But if we have a candidate that people believe is good and qualified and capable of doing that position, that has been put forward and is willing to do it, as I believe is the case here, then that national search becomes a waste of a little bit extra money, certainly a waste of time, and a distraction to other issues we're facing. We run out of oxygen in the room to talk about the power supply issue, to talk about other things that we're facing. And so that would be my concern, where we would be using up time, energy, and resources to try to find somebody that we have already found. And I get reasonable minds can disagree on this one, but that would be my position on this. And like I said, the reality is we've got a mayor that's already indicated that McGowan, so it's kind of trying to split the baby by putting this amendment in there. And I think from where I am, I would rather vote no on the national search and then vote yes on Doug McGowan to be the MLGW CEO. And I think that would be appropriate. And I've worked with him for 7 years, and we are lucky to have him. And he has a demonstrated record of excellence here at the city and trustworthiness and caring about the individual citizen across every community. So it is an easy vote, I think, for Doug McGowan, but it's not an irrational or unreasonable thought process to think about a national search. But in this case, I think we've already found the right candidate.
So can I respond real quick?
Well, as the maker of the motion, and I'll share this with the general public, with my colleagues, and addressing your motion, Mr. Smiley, the mayor and I met Friday, and I would say that the mayor objects to, and that was a compromise that I'd offer on an interim basis, that Mr. McGowan be named the head of the president of MLGW, and we simultaneously conduct a national search. He objected to that. But one of the things I want to say, too, and as I said to him, we are, the mayor and I and Councilwoman Robinson, Councilman Covette, Councilman Morgan, we're in the last year. And if he's confirmed, he will be confirmed for 5 years. And if the new mayor comes in and says, let's talk about that, the small amount for a national search, if we have to buy out to the tune of $1.2 million, if the next mayor comes in and says, which they have the right and the liberty to do so, I want someone else. And so do we spend 30, 40,000 for 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever the case may be, versus $1 million over here? And I can say, and as I said to the mayor, it's a different thing if we were talking, you know, if we were talking the third year of his term, he was favored to win, looking at everybody who declared to run for mayor, shoo him. 5 years is not an issue then. But from that standpoint, like I said, going back, and as in the comments that I made when I offered this resolution, we did it for the dog catcher, for Memphis Animal Services, the director of Memphis Animal Services. And, you know, not to say it in a derogatory fashion, but every employee is an important position around here. But I think that we as a community, we deem the director of police and MLG&W as very important positions. So do we do that and just say, and Mr. Rawlings emerged from a national search? All we're saying is just what has been the past practice, and to look every citizen in the eye and say, the only way to find the best candidate is to do a national search. That's what the spirit of this is. And as you all know, look, we voted up, we're down, I move on, but I still say $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 over what could be $1.2 million. I don't think that I'm willing to put what can be the ratepayers' hard-earned money to buy somebody out $1 million who could very well be in this position for one more year. And I recognize Councilman Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we started on the school board together, and we nominated a number of different superintendents. And we went through national searches, and then we hired someone from staff when we hired Superintendent Hobson. We knew him. We knew he was going to do a good job. We hired him. So I think that, you know, to say you always do one thing when you've got the right person or the person you think you need doesn't make sense to just do it always that way. And I remember, you know, we had President Obama nominated a Supreme Court judge, and he was told by the Senate Majority Leader, nope, we want the next president to decide it. Well, that Senate Majority Leader, the next time that thing came up, they put a judge in, you know, 30 days before the election. So he changed his mind twice. So I think it just says that we need to think about what the best thing for us to do as a city. McConnell was thinking about what he wanted to do for his party. You know, we're not partisan, so we can do what we want for the city. And in my mind, the best thing is to put Doug McGowan in office because I think he's going to do the best job. I worked with him on the COVID task force, and I can tell you the city of Memphis is safer and fewer people died here than other parts of the state directly because of the way Doug McGowan organized our community and all of our organizations. I know that he's got that talent to take into MLG&W, and he's been on all of these task forces with the mayor, and he's been talking with the mayor's expert about MISO. He knows this stuff backwards and forwards. He doesn't have to have a 2 or 3 year learning curve. He knows all the players in MLG&W. So, you know, I'm not going to vote for a national search today for that reason, but it's not that and it's not like it's a holy grail to have one. Sometimes you need one. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. It's mounds and almond joy. You pick the one that's how you feel, and in my mind right now, I think the best thing we do is to nominate Doug and to vote this down. Thank you.
The difference is Gorsuch won't cost $1 million. $1.2 million. So
I don't think Doug's going to leave.
Councilwoman Johnson, I'll recognize you after Councilwoman Johnson. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I believe under the circumstances we're dealing with, what we're lacking is, first, if we would go with a search, the job description would be established. We'll find out what qualifications a person would need to have and what skill levels. After you go and establish that, you may turn around and say, we already have someone with these qualifications, and end the job search out there. So I would say, and I can support Smiley, but if Mayor Strickland is not going to actually allow Doug or appoint Doug, I can understand his reason for that as well. But I can support Smiley. I'll second your motion in this regards, just to keep the ball moving, to keep the search on course, and for us to keep on thinking about what we have to do. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carlisle? So I accept the friendly amendment, but I accept it knowing what the mayor's position is, and, which is contrary to this. However, colleagues, and I would offer this too. The administration requests that items appear on the council's agenda. It doesn't automatically appear on the agenda if the committee chair doesn't accept it to be on there. And so, in the spirit of compromise, I still would offer, though, Mayor, you can provide it on an interim basis. Otherwise, the council does not have to entertain it, and therefore you will not have a permanent replacement for that. So, I still offer that based upon the fact that the mayor has indicated to me that he didn't want to do that on that standpoint. But what the council can say, it does not appear, we do not have to confirm that individual if the mayor doesn't abide to what the council says. So we can choose to do that. 7 votes rules the day. Councilman Carlisle, then Morgan, and then seeing nobody else in the queue, I'll call for the question, although I accept the friendly amendment, knowing that the mayor will not accept that. It could be an exercise in futility, but Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this shocks you. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I have struggled with the process of this. I share many of the comments about Chief McGowan and his ability. And Chairman Jones is right. I mean, the council's agenda, the council's vote belongs to the council. I mean, we've heard the chief legal. I mean, we've talked about we have our own path and the mayor has his, and I think that has to be protected, and that's sacrosanct. What I struggle with is part of me believes the national search takes out all doubt, right? Like it allows for this body to know that all avenues were exhausted. But on the flip side, if you've worked with Chief McGowan, you know what he's capable of. However, it's hard because I haven't heard from Chief McGowan himself what his plans are, right? Meaning, part of me wants to go ahead and dispense of this, and part of me wants to hold this and allow McGowan the opportunity, which would be irregular, the opportunity along with the mayor to publicly state what his intentions are with MLGW before our committee. I mean, again, it is up to the chairman and up to the chairman of that committee whether somebody should be allowed on the agenda. Obviously, a member can always make a motion to have it added with 7 votes. We can do suspension of the rules, all those things, but before I'm able to support a national search, I'm willing to give Chief McGowan the opportunity. I think he's earned that right to state before the council why he thinks he's the best man for the job. But obviously, that's up to the will of the body. But I do want to say that I think that on the merits of his arguments, Chairman Jones has made a fair argument that there is a precedence for national searches, that whether it was to find the best person or provide political cover, you'd have to go ask the person that did those searches, but also that Chief McGowan has demonstrated an ability to run large organizations and I'll try and wrap these up, but you look at how, to Jeff's point, how he handled the COVID task force taking over the vaccine distribution. His ability for command and control is almost unparalleled. And that certainly could liaise itself over into MLGW. And so for me, I'm in probably one of for something that is a request, this is one of the hardest things that I've been involved in because I want to respect where the chairman is going with this. But I also have a deep respect for Chief McGowan. And to be frankly honest, he's never once done something for me where he's never said he's going to do something and not deliver. And so I think that Chief McGowan should be afforded the opportunity to at least present himself before this body. And I would invite the mayor too to tell us why he thinks Chief McGowan is the best person for the job. I know he stated it in the press twice, but this is the Memphis City Council, and that's the platform that matters. That's where it counts. So I'm really struggling with how to handle the process here because I respect your position and I also respect Chief McGowan. So anyway, I'll cede the floor for now. Thank you, Chairman.
Councilman Morgan, Covett, followed by Vice Chair Smiles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I believe you called the question a while ago, or somebody did. And
Well, I said I would, but I
oh,
didn't.
yeah, now, just as I've started, 3 more council members have jumped in the queue. I was just going to, honestly, I don't know if there's anything, we've all thought about this and struggle with this. I don't think there's any words that I can add at the moment that are going to change anybody's vote. So I agree with calling the question. Let's see where the votes are, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Covett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's the point that I'm kind of going for is let's vote on this national search question. Colleagues, we have an amendment that the mayor has basically said he is going to reject. And also, colleagues, I don't know if you'll get it in your packets also, but Doug McGowan's resume is in here. And I suggest you look at it. We all know that Chief McGowan, in the COVID crisis, jumped in and did an amazing job, no question about it. I think everyone that calls him, all you members, I, for one, always get it. If he doesn't take the call, he returns it, and he makes it happen. Everything he's been tasked with, he makes it happen. I am ready to vote on him. I don't think that there is a will of the body to vote on that tonight. I think it is an excellent idea, a little bit different from norm, but I think Chief McGowan should come in next meeting and speak to us. But colleagues, in the interim, take a look at this man's resume. It is absolutely gold-plated, and I think we can all agree the job he will do will be phenomenal. So I guess it's the next mayor's right to potentially discontinue his services, but I think we can all fairly safely hedge our bets that Chief McGowan, as the president of MLG&W, will not get a recall from the next mayor. Thank you.
Vice Chair Smiley.
So I got a pretty,
Bring it back a little closer.
so I received a pretty funny text message. And the question that was brought, I will read it actually. No, it's pertinent. There are talented leaders at MLGW who have expressed interest in being considered and proving their ability to serve at the highest level of their careers. But the most relevant question before this body, no one has asked. We talked about Doug's ability to deliver. Every single council member up here would say Doug can deliver. We talked about Doug's ability to lead the city. Every single council member will say Doug has done a good job as COO for the city. But the one thing that is relevant when we're talking about MLGW or utilities companies is expertise and utility. No one cares. We're talking about the MLGW. Does Doug McGowan have an expertise? That's the question before this body. We have not asked that question. When we talk about a leading industry, one of the things we must consider, and that's why I echo the sentiments of Councilman Jones, we must consider other folks who have experience, expertise. This is job qualification, and I'm not throwing no shade here. So I'm going to say this with all due respect to every elected official in this city. Councilman Carlisle has stated this numerous times when it talked about clerk positions. Clerk positions, according to Councilman Carlisle, should be appointed because the folks in those positions need an expertise, and they need to have a demonstrated ability to be able to run an office. I would say this is similar. The reason we want someone, the reason we conducted national searches related to MLGW is because we want people who have an ability to lead, but not only lead, but an expertise in this particular area. So what this body is saying, if it votes down a national search, and I'll tell you, I love Doug McGowan. I tell people all the time, he reminds me of my dad because he's straight to the point. If he tell you something, he's gonna do it. But echo the sentiments of Mayor Strickland. We need to be able to look the citizens in the Memphis in the eye and say, we got the very best person, but someone also who has an understanding of MLGW, but also understanding of public utility. Right now, we just don't know. We believe that Doug is the best based on the information, the limited information we have. The reason it's limited, because we haven't opened it up to anyone else. MLGW, there's jokes all the time about MLGW and robbery and all the types of things about how MLGW negatively impacts citizens. Shouldn't or does or do the citizens of Memphis deserve some type of understanding that this council put the necessary due diligence in and just didn't confirm someone without even opening up to the general citizens of Memphis or a national search? We need to do some type of due diligence on our end. We haven't done a damn thing, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Councilman Ford, followed by Councilman Warren.
Thanks, Chair. Two of our best MLG&W presidents come from city administration. Jerry Collins, if you check his record, he come from here, didn't have to have a search. One of the best MLG&W presidents. Joseph Lee was one of the best. Came from the administration here. We did not have to have a search. Some of the others didn't have Memphis at their best interest. We've got Doug McGowan. He's proven himself to do just about anything. And then there's 13 council members here. And I think all 13 of us have gone to him, and he has done everything that he could possibly for each and every one of us. Without a problem, he's made a way. We got good people. We got good people right here. Why go bring somebody else in? And we got the right person already here. I just want to bring that up, and that was when I was on the council before then. These good people that come from the administration, some of the older ones here know where I'm coming from with these two people, okay? They went in and they kind of changed light, gas, and water for being better than what they were. And especially, like I said, Jerry Collins, Joseph Lee. Check it out. I think Doug would be one of the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Warren.
Yes, Mr. Chair, since there's no one in the queue.
I didn't place myself in the queue, but I was going to have some.
Then I'll go ahead. I just have one thing to say, is that we do have one person who's nominated people for MLG&W president. I think, didn't Mayor Strickland nominate J.T. Young after a national search? So he's someone who knows what's necessary to run the company because he had to do that. And now he's nominating Doug McGowan. So the person who's actually nominated someone and knows what needs to happen over there is our mayor. And for that reason, I don't think we need a national search. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, and my last point on this item is we had a national search for the police director, and Mr. McGowan is a great individual. I think that everybody shares that. But the mayor could have very well said, I want to nominate Mr. Doug McGowan to head Memphis Police Department. But we felt that experience and expertise in that industry mattered. As I make this case about this instance, we're making a decision that could very well cost taxpayers and ratepayers over $1 million. Expertise, experience counts except for this. That's what we're saying, to the tune of $1 million. And so, Dr. Warren, Councilman Dr. Warren, you bring up a good point. You can handcuff it, whatever the case may be, but Gorsuch cannot be removed for $1 million. There's no buyout that would cost the ratepayers to do so. And so when we talk about the hard-earned money of people in this community, when we tell every young child to go to school, come up in your industry, work hard, be a journalist, and then therefore you can get this appointment, I just don't agree with that. And so, colleagues, we are going to vote our conscience. We will live to see another day after this. And I call for the question on what would be the friendly amendment that was accepted as the maker of the motion.
So we're voting on the amended motion.
We're voting on the amended motion, which would ask that the mayor appoints Mr. McGowan as the interim president and CEO, but also conduct a national search. So that's what we are voting on, because that was a friendly amendment made and accepted. And that was made without objection. So, colleagues, the screen is prepared for vote. And council members, please cast your vote.
Canale abstained. Carlisle, no. Colbert, no. Dockery, no. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, no. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, no. Robinson abstained. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, no. Chairman Jones, yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion fails. Yes, Councilman Carlisle.
I do want to say that this matter has been disposed of for the time being, but if next council meeting I'm not wowed, I have no problem reconsidering this item.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item number 28?
Item number 28 is a resolution of the Memphis City Council establishing the 2022 Redistricting Committee. All council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Councilwoman Easter Thomas.
Councilwoman Easter Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I am representing this amended resolution, which will establish a redistricting committee for the city that will be composed of, as amended, up to 26 members, 13 council members, and 13 community members appointed by the council. And this committee will meet publicly to oversee and sift through the process of providing alternative maps for the 2022 redistricting year. These maps will have a chance to be vetted for legal obligation by our council attorney before brought to full council for a vote by 4/15/23, so by April 15th, 23. The committee would approve an entity to complete the alternative maps. It was asked by Councilwoman Johnson in last meeting to provide a fiscal number range that would be. One possible entity that has priced this work is Mr. D. Harris He has worked on maps with the Shelby County with redistricting, and what he quoted was for $30,000. So as I repeat, the committee would approve an entity to complete the alternative maps. You all asked for a fiscal note, and I also wanted to know a range as well, so I went and got a range for that work. And that range was quoted at $30,000 for Mr. D. Harris. But once again, the approval of Mr. Harris or any entity would be the task of the committee, in which would hold up to 13 council members, as we amended their resolution. So if approved tonight, the 13 community members could go ahead and be appointed. That process could start, and then immediately work would start, as we would want ample time for review and discussion so that any recommendations could be made by April 15, 2023. And with that, Chair, I so move and so electronically.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. We have Councilman Carlisle in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilwoman East Thomas, thank you for getting the quote. Genuinely, I appreciate that because I was kind of curious how that work runs. While, and I'm sorry if you wrote it in here, so please respond where do we have it in here in this resolution that the appropriating authority will go to this committee?
Appropriation or selection of an entity to do the maps?
Well, even if the selection of the entity to do the maps, somebody has to approve the payment of that, and it has to come from somewhere in our budget, either our budget or somewhere in the city's budget. So my question is if an entity is approved, is it your intent for that? Once that entity's, let's say the committee says we want X, Y, and Z, committee X, Y, and Z to do it, here's the cost. Is that going to come to
That should
budget
come
committee?
back to budget and
Got
council.
it. All right, thank you. That's my only question for now. I'll yield the floor to.
We can't give community members the authority to spend money.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. All right. So I will say I do appreciate this. I'm glad that there's at least a check for the council, honestly, right? Like, so if the person that is going to do this work outside of our expert, which is, and again, in my opinion, is Alan Wade, having done it 8 times, and probably not for $30K, probably for much less. But at least there's a check to say that allows this council to the opportunity to vet who's going to be processing the work, meaning it's not going to be somebody out in the sphere. It's not going to be the boogeyman and the invisible hand in the background, much like the mailer that went out from Stand for Children, you know, which was paid for by money that's not from Shelby County, right? Like Schusterman Irrevocable Trust out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, or, you know, the People for Fairness and Justice PAC, which George Soros wrote a $280,000 check and doesn't live here, probably never been to Memphis. But those are the things that concern me. Is I don't mind that. What my stance has been is only if the people on the committee are coming to the table in earnest to look at potential better ways to do this work, not with an agenda of their own ahead of time. So those are my comments. I'm still a little shaky and hesitant on this, but I do appreciate the work. And to be honest, to the point that Alan Wade made earlier in attorney-client, I mean, I've asked for time.
It's attorney-client.
I can still make the point that I made. It didn't waive privilege.
Well, but the council waives privilege, not an individual.
Okay.
Because it was the body.
Great. I'll make the point now then, which is I've asked for time with Mr. Wade, and he and I have discussed, and the map is out there for 6 weeks, and if the council wants to change it, or even if the council wants to host a series of community meetings in each and everyone's district for Mr. Wade to come and speak at, no one's done that. So this just seems like a far cry to go from an accusation of this was backroom dealings and quietness to we need an entire public ad hoc committee when no one's done the middle ground work, which is, and we do it all the time. Hey, CJ, will you come to my district and explain what you're working on? Nobody has asked Alan for a neighborhood meeting to explain to anybody that's actually interested. As a matter of fact, I don't see this groundswell of people. I see one person, a groundswell of people that required an $80,000 mailer to go out and accuse the council of doing backroom deals. Like, I'm all about having public input, but this just seems a far cry to go from one to the other. That's just my 2 cents. I'll yield to the body. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, I wanted to make certain that I understood the process that was in the resolution. So that committee would eventually, after their meetings and what they come up with, it would go to Alan, it would come back here, or would it go to Attorney Wade?
He's with us, so it would be both.
And he would ultimately approve it?
No, council.
But ultimately,
Well, he would make
approve
sure
or not
he would make
approve.
sure it's legal.
Right.
He would make sure it's legal and all of that. Okay, but we would approve it. Okay, thank you. That's all I want.
Councilman Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, fellow council members. You know, I think we had a government academy that our vice chair put together, and to try to educate people. And in my mind, what did we figure? I think our attorney told us 21% of people voted in the last election that could have voted. So if we spend $30,000 and we get people excited and thinking about districts and thinking about how to vote, it may be money well spent if we actually just increase the number of people who vote the next time by 10% because we get extra publicity. And it also lets people see how complicated this stuff is. You, an attorney-client, we heard how complicated it is to do this stuff. So getting it out there and letting more people look at it and bringing it back and make sure it's legal, in my mind, hurts nothing and maybe will help something. So I'm going to vote for this for that reason because I think it's good government. If I don't know Mr. Soros, but I'm going to hit him up for no. But I mean, the issue is, I think that if someone wants to pay for this to be done, we need to make sure that we get it out there and it's out in the open. And if people are paying for it, I want to know it's Mr. Soros, and I want to know who's doing it. So thank you for bringing that up. I had no idea. It's somebody out of our community. I would rather have our local NAACP pay for it, or someone else who is a local person who wants to see this done as opposed to outside money. And it may end up coming out of our budget, but the chief thing is, I think we'll get more people interested in the election. We'll have people look at it and it'll make sense to them. And we're going to come back and I think we're going to find, based on the complexity, it's going to be awful close to whatever we're looking at with Allen right now. So, and that's a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Warren. Before I recognize the council members, I just want to share, a lot of times the meetings may receive more viewers, more listeners, whatever the case may be, but I will be supporting this because one of the things that I've heard in Super District 8 is, and some of the comments that I made in committee, we've made minor adjustments since 1995 to what our district maps are. But one of the things that I've heard as a council member of Super District 8 is the fact that downtown right now, its population, we may have had, I don't know the number, but 5,000 residents then, and we probably have 20, 30, 40, 30,000. Or maybe not that much, but significant, many more people who live in the downtown area than we did at that particular time. And one of the resounding issues when you go to a downtown neighborhood association meeting is that they would love to have the voice of one council member. Now, we can pick whether it's you, Councilman Ford, we can pick whether it's you, Councilwoman Easter Thomas, but as what the county commission did in their redistricting process, they looked at the Cordova area and said this area's interest is common, and therefore to have that one voice of that representative was best for that community. And any of my colleagues who would talk to the downtown members, they would tell you, instead of having 2 council members, although everybody has 4, but in that particular instance, you have 5. So this would, bring some simplicity to that, and it's saying that we are looking at what's taking place from a population standpoint and addressing those particular issues. We have comment cards from Suzanne Jackson and Ian Randolph. So when you identify yourself and your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, council members, and community residents. I'm Suzanne Jackson, 4194 Fillsdale, 38111. As a resident of Memphis and Shelby County since 1972, I urge you to support a more transparent redistricting process that includes the involvement of our very diverse community. A process more similar to the successful redistricting that Shelby County implemented and that Councilwoman Easter Thomas is proposing would seem to be more helpful to the entire community for decisions that will likely impact us for years and could ensure that all votes count equitably. I hope you will all support the proposed 2022 redistricting committee with an open, transparent, public process. The City Council would, of course, still have final approval on the redistricting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Randolph.
Good evening.
Good evening.
City Council members. I'm Ian Randolph. I live at 847 North Holmes, and I am the chair of the Political Action Committee for the NAACP. And if any of you all saw this flyer and you looked at it real thoroughly, you'll see right down next to Stan is the NAACP here in Memphis. And we helped support this flyer going out along with a questionnaire that was done. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this agenda item. I'll be very brief. We support a fair, transparent process, including public input, which is always the right decision. That's all we're asking for humbly with this particular resolution. A process similar to the county's process, and I'd like to thank Councilwoman Michaelin Easter Thomas for presenting this. And just to address a few things that Councilman Carlisle brought up, I don't know George Soros. And I have worked very closely with Stand for Children, obviously, since we both went in on this flyer. And as far as I know, they don't know George Soros. And we did not spend $80,000 sending this out. It was considerably less. So I hope that addresses some of the concerns that you brought up. This was done by the citizens here in Memphis, and a lot of them are your constituents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, since I was addressed in his comments, since I was addressed directly.
You'll be recognized.
But I was addressed directly.
Yes, you'll have an opportunity to speak on it. Councilwoman Dockery, followed by Councilman Carlisle.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I have one thing about the redistricting, because I have posed my constituents not only throughout my own district, and I have made that a number one thing for me lately, but I'll say this, am I opposed or for it? I'm going to support it. However, even once we do the redistricting, I listened to Attorney Wade last week about something. We still must do one thing that is comprehensive as it relates to our constituents. All of our constituents do not know whom represents them, nor do they know where the district lines lie. That is a problem when it relates, even for me prior to my race. Sometimes the lack of knowledge or making sure that the constituents know what is going on versus the council knowing what's going on. We have to make it truthfully transparent and make it so common, not sometimes all the way over the top, but bring it home so that the people understand what's going on and understand how these things are moving. If I perfect example, Councilman Ford. Councilman Ford takes ownership to the Compton Street. However, I was working on a project with the people on Compton Street. Now, because I'm respectful enough to know not to cross unnecessary boundaries, he knows that I'm going to do right by his constituents. So my thing is, guess what? Terry Dockery did not know, or Councilwoman Dockery didn't know, that she had stepped into other charted territories. However, I'm still here to serve, but if we don't make sure our constituents know who's serving them, then we still lack the resource in which we need to be focusing on at the end of the day. We can redistrict this thing 1,000 times. We must make sure we inform our people. That's my only point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carlisle.
Thank you. I'd love to address some of those comments. So, sir, would you mind coming back up to the podium? You mentioned public input. Do you receive or do you check the City Council's website for our agenda, which is published weekly?
Yes, I do. I get the emails.
So are these chambers and is this building open to the public for input?
Yes, it is.
So the idea that we've had our doors closed, are you aware of any backroom dealings that have gone on? Or are you just accusing in writing that we're backroom dealings? The NAACP, which you are an organization and have written that language here in your mailer, or you have no evidence and you just wrote a libelous statement, which is an actionable item. Should we tell our attorney to seek action against the NAACP for writing a unfounded, reckless, libelous statement? Or do you have evidence of such? If so, I would suggest you see our chief legal officer who's over there and turn over any such information.
I disagree with that comment, sir.
That's not a comment, it's a question. Do you have any evidence of backroom dealings? Is this building open to the public?
I disagree with your accusation. I did say this.
I'm reading it off of your mailer that you just held up saying you partnered with Stand for Children. I'll read it for you, sir. Every 10 years, the city council redraws the city's districts. Recently, the council and unelected attorney decided on a new map with backroom deals. No transparency, no notice, no public process. Sir, you are in this chamber taking part in that exact process of fair and openness.
And I'm here advocating for more fairness, more transparency, and more openness.
So
Ms. Carlisle.
This is my prerogative, Chairman. I was addressed.
But Ms. Carlisle, you've expressed your opinion. You've asked questions of it. We're going to move on from this discussion.
I've got one more, if you'll allow me, Chairman.
Ms. Carlisle, we're going to move on from this discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more issue, if you'll allow me.
One more, and then we wrap it up.
I would just say to this general body that has sat here since we were elected in 2019, that not only did we not cut public transportation, we found funding for it. Not only did we not cut affordable housing, we added funding for it. Not only did we not cut funds to community services, we added to it. And we have always been an open and transparent group. And I take great offense to that mailer because it is unfounded, slanderous, reckless, and libelous. And I think it's shameful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Hickory, Councilman Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything Councilman Carlisle just said. And I'm afraid we are going through a process to placate some people that are complaining about our process. But as we've been explaining it for months, they have not been listening with open and honest intent. And so we're going to go through this process again, and maybe we'll have 26 people, 13 of us, another 13 people from the community. We'll go through it again. And even if the case is made perfectly and laid out there plainly by Alan Wade, which has been done time and time again, and over 8 times the number of redistrictings he's done that have always been open to the public, have always been open to discussion, and has always been in front of a body of the elected representatives of the people, that there are over 600,000 people in the city. Some people are always going to believe that the process isn't fair. We cannot convince everyone. And if people aren't listening, we shouldn't be spending a lot of time, a lot of our energy, and a lot of our resources in meetings trying to convince people that have not been listening already and have not been honest with the conversations and the mailers or the dialogues that they have been engaging in on this subject. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. There's nobody else in the queue, so I'll go ahead and speak on this. Colleagues, this was, in my opinion, all of us have our opinions. This was not a transparent process. Mr. Wade came up with the maps, presented it to this body, and we voted on it. That's not transparency. What this is calling for is, there were no neighborhood meetings. So instead of having 13 meetings for each council member to go to their district to do so, what this is saying, no, we're bringing everybody together and we're having, it could be multiple meetings. But to sit here and say that this was a transparent process and just because City Hall is open and just because it was noticed to the public, and when Mr. Wade said at that lectern there, he said that he contacted certain council members but not others. So if we're going to have a transparent process about this, Mr. Carlisle, you're going to have a chance to provide your input. Mr. Morgan,
Ms. Robinson, Ms. Johnson, all of us. That did not happen. So I think that it is not factual. It is not factual to say that this was a transparent process, and I was not contacted at all about it. I was just asked to vote on it because District 4's race is coming up, and we need to act on it by that particular time. So this is to address that. This was called for. This may have been on the agenda starting at the beginning of this current year, October 2021. So we could have started the process then, had these multiple meetings to address this issue, but that did not take place, colleagues. And so that's why I refuse to, that's why I had to respond to that, because this wasn't a transparent process for that to take place. Councilwoman Robinson, followed by Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Easter Thomas asked us to allow the public to give some feedback. I think we ought to allow them to do that. At the end of the day, we make the decisions. When we have constituents in the chambers and they have share with us, I think we ought to stick to our rules. That's not the time for us to engage them. I wasn't happy with the propaganda that I saw myself. However, I can't be angry because people have a different opinion than I do. Let's go through the process. Let's see what we obtain in knowledge. Because and I just have to say this, I try my best every day to represent the people in my district. They don't have to fill up this room. All they have to do is let me know what it is that they want. I haven't gotten a million calls on this, and I'm just being honest about it. But let's be civil. I think we have a good process now that I understand what has happened in the past. But let's see what public input we get, and it may be helpful and it may not, but it's not going to kill us to do it. Let's work together, and let's try to do it in a peaceful way, because that's the way that we want our city to be. We have to demonstrate what we want to see our young people doing, what we want to see other adults doing. Let's not get angry. Let's just work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robinson. Councilwoman Logan. And then seeing no one else in the queue, the question will be called on this item.
Thank you, Chair. I just like to say that I think this process, allowing the community or constituents in the process, could only add to it. I can't see necessarily how it could take away, because as it was stated here today, ultimately the council will vote, and Attorney Wade is still, responsible for advising us if it's legal or appropriate or right or wrong, and will be the ultimate, guide for the process. So to me, it's just extending an opportunity for our constituents who we serve and who voted for us to be a part of the process. And I think this council body has attempted to do that on a number of occasions. And that's one good thing I can say about this body, is we've done some things to move the needle in allowing community or engaging community and getting them involved and engaged in government, as opposed to just allowing us to represent them. So I too agree that it could potentially bring about a greater good. So I appreciate it. And as my colleague said, if it doesn't yield that, we can retract it or go a different way later. But I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to do this now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Logan. Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this item for the vote?
Canale abstained. Carlisle abstained. Colvett, no. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Morgan, no. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 29?
Item number 29 is a resolution to amend the FY23 CIP budget to allocate and appropriate $500,000 to PW 20200 sidewalks cover line, all council districts. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Carlisle and Johnson.
Thank you. Councilman Carlisle.
Yes, sir. Yep. All right, kids, that was fun. In an effort to be transparent, we're going to hear this item. So the committee met and recommended approval on this. And before I move it, let me explain that we left a couple things open. So I want to draw your attention to them. And if you guys don't want to vote on it tonight, that's fine, because it's new. So I guess do I need to move it first? I guess, so we can I'll move it. Second. Yeah, it received a positive. All right, so if you go to the last whereas, there's a cap on the second to last line up to $3,000. It's somewhat arbitrary, but the idea is to try and reach as many homeowners as possible throughout the program on a per annum basis. I think the average home that probably will see this work is probably 25 feet, linear feet by 3 or 4 feet on sidewalk. So $3,000 should be able to cover a significant, if not all of the portion of the cost. But it also doesn't leave it open for somebody or a contractor to come out and be like, hey, it's going to be 11 grand, or remove a tree stump, right? It could go to tree stump removal. The second bucket that we left open is like, where is this going to come from? And so we appropriate roughly $20 million a year in paving. It can get encumbered, but not every year are we able to pave every single mile that we get. So what I would like to do is take this money from the paving line item in the CIP budget and move it into this cover line. If we get to the end of the year and there is paving that we need that last $500,000, there are two separate places that we can go to for that money. One is cobbling other projects together, and two is in the Fund 245, also known as the Public Safety Referendum. That money is there for street right-of-way maintenance and has actually been used for some of this. I know that gets really touchy with the associations. Tommy and John, don't kill me. But ultimately, it's the best place to go, I think, to deal with this issue that we moved it. It's me and Easter Thomas. But that's the best place to go. So those are the changes to the document from the last time you saw it. I just wanted to be very clear, very open, so that you guys understand what my thought process was and where the money's coming from, why it's coming from there, and then the cap. So with that, I'll yield the floor. Thank you, Chairman.
I don't see any council members in the queue to speak on this item. As the co-sponsor, Councilwoman Johnson, did you want to add any comments? Okay, I'm sorry.
Chair, really not. The only other thing that I became aware of is that we may have some underground infrastructure issues that we need to keep in mind. So we may have to ask Public Works to come in and look before we actually replace the sidewalk, so we don't get caught up in a situation far beyond what we started with.
Okay. And Councilwoman Easter Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask for Part B. Participants must make no more than 60% of the area median income. What kind of number does it really round up to?
That's a great question, and I was supposed to have done my homework on there, and I didn't. And I'm just going to be honest with everybody, I didn't. So I used to know the number off the top of my head at 80%, which was just doing quick math and how much that balloon would be. I think it was roughly 80% is. God, I wish somebody was in here. It was like 26 grand a year, 27 grand. So basically, you're looking at dropping that down another 20% to people that make 35. Am I doing that right? I'm going to do this. Give me 2 seconds. I'm sorry, Chairman.
And I don't ask to not be supportive of
it's a fair question.
Of the resolution, but just thinking that of Memphis's area median median income, that might, 6% might still be too high. Because if you are making, between 40 or 50, do you still have $3,000 or so to spend on a sidewalk?
I'm very much open to any friendly amendment you want to toss my way.
So if you didn't do your homework, I definitely didn't do any homework. So I don't know what a percentage to make that, but I would, I can't amend because I don't know what percentage to make that, but I would suggest if we can drop it lower.
Then let's drop it to 45% as a friendly amendment. And here's the deal. I'm not asking for same night minutes on this thing. We'll do a little homework. And if we didn't hit the mark, we'll reconsider it and we'll make the appropriate changes. And I have to take the blame for that. That's solely on my shoulders for not doing that because I'm into it.
Is for 45%?
Yes, sir.
That's a friendly amendment, no objection to amending it to be 45%?
That one's on me. I'm sorry.
So that friendly amendment is made without objection?
They already have a program. Yeah, so Councilwoman, just so the council can hear me, Councilwoman Logan asked me, what about seniors? There is another bucket of money. It's $200,000. We probably need to look at expanding that. That is specifically for senior citizens on a fixed income. So this is to help more of the middle income earners that own their home and they really want to make changes and the code enforcement's out there, but $4 or $5 grand a year is just not in the budget. And so that's to answer her question.
Okay. So, colleagues, your vote screen is displayed. Please cast your votes.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Madam Comptroller, will you please call item 30?
Item number 30 is a resolution to allocate and appropriate $500,000 to Claiborne Temple, District 6, Super District 8. This resolution is sponsored by Council Members Ford, Carlisle, Clavette, Johnson, Jones, Robinson, Smiley, and Warren.
Okay. Councilman Ford.
Thanks, Chairman. Committee met,
Microphone, please. Well, put it a little bit closer.
Committee met, we recommend the approval of this $500,000 to Claiborne Temple, and I move it.
That has been moved by Councilman Ford, seconded by Councilwoman Dockery. Before we move on with that, the sponsors on here were the members that were in the committee meeting. So I don't know if there were any council members who were not present.
Must have been inadvertently left off.
No, you weren't in the room.
So if there's any council member at this
Add
time.
the names on there,
And
make
me,
it 13.
Not want the name included on this
There you go.
resolution, please specify.
Thank you.
So this will be sponsored by all council
All
members.
council members, yes, sir.
So has been moved by Ford, seconded by Dockery. Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare this screen for the vote as amended with the sponsors?
Long day, bro.
Yeah.
Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvette, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Vice Chairman Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. That brings us to our same night minutes. Vice Chair Smiley, would you please read the same night minutes into the record?
Absolutely. The same night minutes are items 5, 9, 10, 11, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and I so move.
Wait, was that 5 or you said 5?
5, because it was 5, I think. 1 was on there. 4 was on there inadvertently. It should be 5.
Okay, 5. Okay. Has been moved by Vice Chair Smiley, seconded by Councilman Warren. Councilman Dockery, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Dockery, to approve the same night minutes. Madam Comptroller, will you please prepare the item for the vote?
Well, y'all are good people.
There you go. Canali, yes. Carlisle, yes. Colvett, yes. Dockery, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Johnson, yes. Logan, yes. Robinson, yes. Smiley, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Jones, yes.
That item passes. Colleagues, we have one speaker card,
My man.
and that is Mr. Joe Kent. Mr. Kent, welcome. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Joe Kent, 5111 Flamingo. I don't have an agenda against Chief Doug McGowan, but we cannot get a progress readout on $100 million in public riverfront spend from taxpayers. Representative and Doug McGowan's Riverfront Steering Committee. Here's a listing of public funds. Tom Lee Park, $36 million. No agreement with the massive revenue generator Memphis in May. Tom Lee Park Tailout Trail, $3.5 million. Cobblestone, $11 million. City is paid based on 70% of the work being completed. In perfect conditions for cobblestone restoration with Low River, but it is nowhere near 70% complete. And I know nothing about cobblestone restoration, but do know a pontoon boat should not be parked in the middle of the construction site. Riverfront dock, $20 million from the state. Constant Library, $6.5 million. City paid 100% of the $6.5 million contract on April 5th, 2022, but the concert remains closed after 5 years. My conspiracy theory with that is they've been using concert and cobblestone public money to cash flow Tom Lee Park instead of collecting private pledges. Brooks Museum, $10 million, pilot extension fund. I see city workers prepping this Brooks site. Mud Island, $10 million, and so that comes out to $97 million. Taxpayers are due an update from the City Riverfront Committee on $100 million in public funds. The TLP update has been removed from the agenda twice for some reason, but we need an update on all things Riverfront. That's $100 million in public. That's not private. That's not their little bit of little private money that they do that they're probably not even going to collect. They're not going to collect and just cash flow it with all public money. So anyway, we need an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, this meeting is adjourned without objection.
That's what I want to ask you.